fellow Star Wars fans. My name is Chris, and I'm joined by Ben for Outer Rim Transmission. This is episode 105, and it is Revenge of the Fifth. We celebrated May the 4th yesterday, and we are coming back with a vengeance tonight. To be thematic for today's date, we are talking about our favorite Sith characters in Star Wars and just catching up in general. So, of course, speaking of May the 4th, how was your May the 4th, Ben?
Mine was pretty good actually. This kind of like dials into my week in Star Wars just because like it was like the biggest highlight, Star Wars highlight for me this week. And anyways, we had some relatives here, and long story short, we were at my grandparents, and I was messaging in our group chat earlier today. I like every now and then at my grandparents will watch the original Star Wars trilogy, but we watched the original versions pre 1997 release. So like they're the actual original cuts of the movies from 77, 80, and 83 because they're VHS tape copies that my grandma had like recorded, back in the late 80s, early 90s, whenever VHS tapes started. I mean, I don't know the history of VHS, but anyways, it's like, so they're the original tapes. So like yesterday when we were there, we just had like those on in the background, and like I was saying, we only watch those probably twice a year at max because with tapes, with the old VHS tapes, like it's just kind of like a coin flip. Like if you put it in the VHS player, it might just eat the tape one of these times. So it's kind of scary like watching them because I'm like, oh man, this is like a 30-year-old VHS tape, and I don't want to like jack it up, but it still played great. Of course, just seeing like the original cuts of the movie was awesome. Like, Han shooting first, of course, your classic things. The Emperor and Empire Strikes Back looking all jacked up and crazy, how he looks like in that movie. And then of course, just like, the classic Yub Nub at the end of the Endor sequence versus the whole galaxy wide thing. So yeah, I just really enjoy those versions so much as obviously so many Star Wars fans do, but that was kind of how my May the 4th went. I just revisited the original cuts of the movies and carefully handled the VHS tapes because I was like, oh man, because I actually was kind of scared when we went to watch them too, because last year when we were over there, so to like put a little context on on things, back when VHS tapes were a thing, like basically my grandma like got really big into recording movies on VHS tapes, and like she was so into movies and sci-fi movies and everything back then. Like she has all of her VHS tapes like numbered from like 1 up to whatever, and she had like a book where she hand wrote, where it was kind of like family video where she had her own little like bookkeeping of movies and stuff. So so we watched so anyways, so last summer though, the reason I bring that up is because I we went to go and watch Indiana Jones,
Oh,
and it was just a newer copy of Raiders of the Lost Ark, newer being like late 90s. It wasn't like an original recorded like the Star Wars movies were, but it ate the tape last summer. Like we put it in and it was like and like just shredded it. So like all I was thinking yesterday when I went to put in A New Hope, I was like, oh man, please, please don't eat this tape. But all three movies
oh,
survived. But it was a good time. I love doing that every year. Like we'll usually watch those original movies around May the 4th, or around Christmas time, throw them in just because like they're the old classic actual versions of Star Wars.
heck yeah! No, that's a really cool tradition, and yeah, I don't remember the last time I actually played a VHS tape. It's been a long time, but
Yeah.
it's something I thought about when we were setting up the new TV we got a couple months ago, and it was like, hey, are we gonna keep? My dad's like, are we gonna keep around the VHS player or something? Or he said we're gonna keep it around. I'm like thinking like, why the heck do we need that anymore? Like, all the Star Wars movies I've been watching on Disney Plus. Everything else I could play on disc is with my Xbox Series X. So it's like I don't have any
Yep.
use. But that is like the one exception. Like that's the only reason why you would ever have a VHS, because that's not available to see anywhere else unless you want to, I guess, get like a pirated digital version or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking too. And my grandma like joked around. She was like, "I don't want." She was like, "Well, I don't like all these tapes and these things, taking up room." I was like, "Hey, like you can't go and throw away all this stuff. Like you gotta." I was like, if you're gonna get rid of like the VHS tapes or anything, like you need to give them to me. At least the VHS player and the original Star Wars movies to me.
Yep.
And she like joked and was like, "Hey." If I ever croak, I'll inherit the Star Wars movies from her. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah. That's really rad that you were able to go through all three of them. Like that's a lot of time. That is like
Yeah,
six. That's
we
that's
were
a ton of time.
yeah, we were over there all day, and it's so nice too. Like it's so surprising. Like those being like 30-year-old copies like that, like they still play fine. Like, obviously it's not like your 4K quality, but it still plays fine. Like there's nothing wrong with it. It's not like scratchy or anything weird. It just plays well, and it's like it's a good time just because I that's like that A New Hope tape, like, as we're like celebrating May the 4th and Revenge of the 5th and everything, like that A New Hope copy was what got me into Star Wars before Phantom Menace. Like my first memory of Star Wars was when I was like probably, around 6 years old, because when I saw Phantom Menace, I was 6. So my very first memory though of Star Wars was watching A New Hope with my grandma because she's into Star Wars, and the very my earliest memory by far is like the Vader walking through Leia's ship scene, like in that opening
Huh.
sequence, and like and in the Tantive 4, and like that's my like earliest memory of Star Wars, because it's like, it just like left such a big imprint. And look, here I am now, 20 it'll be 24 years later this September when I turn 30. 24 years later, I'm sitting here doing a Star Wars podcast because of like my grandma showing me that one VHS tape. And, it's cool like going back and revisiting that VHS tape that got me into all of this.
Oh yeah, I remember them. I could see them from where I'm sitting right now. It's special editions, the regular ones, but yeah,
Yep.
yep. Return of the
Well, see
Jedi.
here.
Yep.
Well, yeah. So, like, here's the cool thing about that. My grandma actually has like a couple copies of the original cut. So it's like the three individual VHS tapes, and then she has like a 10-hour tape that has all three movies on it. So, you know, we can watch either.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty cool having the kind of flexibility. So, because we are spoiled by the simplicities of just getting out of your chair to like change to the next movie rather than Disney Plus. You just, all right, Empire's going on now. Return of the Jedi's
Yep.
going on now. Speaking of which, I am a little bit bummed. I looked for tickets today for tomorrow for going to see Return of the Jedi, and guess what? It's already out of theaters. Like it just did the same thing. I guess it was literally a one weekend thing. I thought it would be out for a little longer than a week because we had a big family gathering last weekend, so I literally had no time to see it last weekend. Plus, with Jedi Survivor, I was just like hammering through that as a priority before anything spoiled for me, and I'm very happy to say that my May the 4th was a very good May the 4th because I finished the game, and at this moment of time, I really think it's the strongest Star Wars story told across all mediums in the last like 5 6 years. It is up there for Rogue One, for The Force Awakens with me, um, Mando season 2, High Republic, Light of the Jedi. Like it's up with the best of the best, and maybe even the best out of all those things I just
So,
named.
yeah, so you're basically saying like it's worth it enough to play it for the story. Like the story transcends it just being a video game.
Oh yes, and like, but just even as a game, it's a very great, very amazing game as itself. But like, and I was ready to say like as I was playing through, and the game does, and without giving anything away, the game is it gets to the point where I thought I was fighting the last boss of the game because they were building up this certain character, and I was like, all right, cool, like this feels like the end, like this feels like the game's gonna end in the next 30 minutes. And oh no, was I really wrong? And I love it when video games do this, where they do the bait and switch. And next thing you know, there's like another like almost half of the game to
Yep.
play through, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they threw an Empire Strikes Back curveball. They pulled it off without me even expecting it at all. They pulled a huge ass twist that literally got under my skin, and I'm playing the game and I'm literally bawling my eyes out playing this video game. I'm bawling my eyes out playing a video game. I'm like, what the hell? Like, how does this story become this good? To the point where it engaged me to that degree, that level. And just the stories feels Game of Thrones to a certain degree, where it's like it's not this evil twirling mustache villain. It's like the characters, the villains, they all have their several layers, and they have a perspective in their head. You know, the greatest villains in all of cinema and fiction are the ones that think they're the hero of their own story. They believe that what they're doing is the right path, but it's through several moments of time and years and whatever that they slowly find themselves in a situation where it's just okay. Um, I don't realize I'm doing bad things, but here I am doing bad things, and it really this game on so many levels reminded me of like A New Hope. There's certain thematic kind of sequences that reflect. So I'm being as vague as I possibly can here right now because, oh man, I want to talk about this game with spoilers because there's going to be huge ramifications for the story of the Jedi franchise, and I really
Well,
hope that you guys out there, you know, if you really like the story, try to be wary of social media because I know I'm one of the first people to beat the game. At least I think I am because I don't see anybody talking about the spoilers that which I consider are like heavy spoilers.
yeah,
Like you don't want
yeah,
to know those things going into play. You want to have the experience I did where I was yelling at my monitor going, "What the hell?" You know, like those crazy, and it happened in a sequence where it was like one thing happened. Then 30 seconds later, another thing happened. Then 5 minutes later, another thing happened. And then 6 minutes later, another thing. It was like, oh my gosh, I have a Google Watch, and I have a heart rate of usually in the low 50s. I was up to almost 120. My
like
heart
you're on a
rate
run.
went on a run because of a freaking video game story that threw me for a roller coaster, and I was like, my heart can't take what I'm experiencing right now. Just the music, the scale, the impact, the stakes. It was just on another level. It was insane. So yeah, that was my May the 4th where I was like, this could be the best May the 4th ever because I just experienced one of the best stories in Star Wars ever. So it's very fitting that I didn't do much, and I had this grand plan of getting up, watching Young Jedi Adventures, and then going right into Star Wars Visions. But then I was notified by Dominic from the Star Wars Underworld. You guys have seen him on my channel many a times. We hung out a lot at Celebration. He's like, "Hey, you're playing you're playing Survivor. Why don't you be on the podcast talk about it tonight?" It's like I'm not gonna deny you that. And then my plans switched. So instead of yesterday watching Visions, talking about it tonight, I was like, screw it. I'm playing Jedi Survivor until I beat the game, so I could at least like say I've completed the story. And I did it with like literally like maybe 10 minutes before I had to get to work. It was insane. Like I went from like 8 o'clock to like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, I got to get off the game like now, or I'm gonna be late. You know what I mean? It's like,
Hey, that's great. Also, did you see Milton can join now? Um, but yeah, that's really great though that you were able to beat the game and really grind it out. And I knew you would be blazing through it too. Like as soon as it came out, I was like, oh man, I bet this is pretty much most of like Chris's upcoming free time is going to be revolving around this game. So I was expecting that. So that's cool that you were able to beat it. Now my thing is with video games, I always wonder because I play video games, I game and stuff, but I'm not like as big into like video gaming and gaming as like you are. So like, what is the normal? Because I know with like movies, it's normally a couple weeks, and then you can talk spoilers 2-3 weeks. I know shows, it's usually normally if you don't have it watched by the next week's episode, you're out of luck. Like, is there kind of like a thing in say like the video gaming talk space where it's like where's a safe time to start talking spoilers, like a month after the game or something, or is there any time frame really, or
See, this game is a long game because it's like 40 hours or something. Like,
Mm,
well, that's where I am right now. Now, apparently, you could beat the game, like the story in 20 hours. I have so much to do in the game now, which is why this podcast has started a little late. I was running around looking for a freaking save point, meditation point. So yeah, I mean that's the thing. When you're talking about this is basically the length of a series, if not longer, right? This is actually yeah, like the story of this game is like 2 seasons of The Mandalorian or something like that. Like it's that
yeah.
long. If you're like going through the actual story beats and not doing any of the side quests at all. Hold on, I'm trying to get this set up right now. Let's see.
You're good.
Ben, you're already like create the DM. Oh, confirm new group. This might go off for a second, just so you know.
Okay.
And yes, so we are currently switching calls real quick here, and we will be back in a moment. I think I have my turn on camera. Oh, here we go.
All right. Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. A little behind the scenes action here, folks.
Do you
Yeah,
guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Yep.
You guys see me?
I do not see you. I can see me.
All right,
Can you
hold on
see
one second.
me, Chris?
No.
Okay.
Make sure you
One
turn on
moment
your
as
camera.
well.
I had to physically turn on my camera. I think I started as a voice call instead of a video call.
Where do you click your camera on these calls?
Are you on a desktop?
Yes.
It's just like the image of a little camera. It's like on the left.
Um.
Okay, there we go. I see Milton now.
You guys see me?
I can see you, man. All right.
Hey.
Gosh,
Cool.
glad you can make it, Milton.
Yeah. Thanks
Yeah,
for
I'm
jumping
sorry,
on.
guys. Work, man. I'm telling you, like,
Yeah, no
work.
problem.
Listen, being an adult is overrated. Let me tell you that right now. Adulting is overrated.
I don't know
Milton, did
why.
you have to hit a certain button for your camera to go on?
Yeah, it should be on like the bottom left
Yeah,
corner.
that's what I thought. Yeah. So
Bottom
if you did it,
left. Let's see. Do. God, I hope I can find it.
then. All right, you're on a PC, right?
Yeah, I'm just looking. 'Cause I don't even see our call on my screen. Oh wait, hold on. Hold on. It. I don't know why I did that.
I'll just probably just alright. I'll timestamp this as like 9:20.
You're good.
I'll do a little editing. That's all right.
Let me see here.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna try to use StreamYards for next week. So I'll look into that because I looked into this for a good hour, and the problem I have is every time I alt tab, I go off of the window of Discord, or any video service,
Mm-hmm.
it automatically like blurs out the video in the background to save like processing speed, and I can't figure out what the setting is to turn that feature off. It must have updated, and there's other people that have the same issue, so I don't know if they'll fix that bug or if they'll do something, but in the meantime, we'll just have to use StreamYard.
Yeah, no
So
problem.
between now and then, it's so much easier than the crap I've been doing, but like I've just been cheap and I didn't want to spend like $10 a month on it or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it worked for a while what we did, but there was constant bugs and crap that it's not worth the aggravation anymore. It really
Yeah,
is.
that's understandable.
I just want to press a button, and just have 3 cameras of people talking going to YouTube. I don't want to deal with the minutia of, ooh, I have to center this frame and I have to do this thing with this frame. It's just tedious.
Yeah, that's understandable. Well, and you can always drop the link to anybody too.
Yeah. Exactly. And then you don't have like the situation where we've had a few times where it was like, hey, download Discord, and then they're like, what's Discord? And I'm like, oh, here we go. Because it was working with Skype for a while, and then it just didn't work anymore because again something got outdated, and then it just became a nuisance.
Yeah. I
So
don't
you
know
still
why on
you
this
still can't find
damn
it, huh?
Apple computer,
Oh, you're on
there's literally
Apple.
no camera, little camera icon on my end. It's like, what the hell,
Like,
dude?
can you do a screen share? And I could try to help you. Like, can you share your
Hold on.
screen?
Do you want me to just like drop out of the call for a second
Yeah, do
and
that
pop
and
back
just
in?
try to pop back in again.
I say that I think will be easier.
In the meantime, I'll get Milton's camera set up on my end and we'll
Okay.
go from there. I'm gonna have to delete that and put it back in again. Let's see. Add window capture. All right. Yeah, this is all messed up now. Okay.
Yeah, sorry for jumping on late. Like literally, it's
Oh, we've only
at
been
like
going for 10 minutes anyway.
8:45.
Oh, you're good. We've literally only been on like 10 minutes, Milton.
Yeah, literally, like it was like 8 something. I get like an email from like our response thing. Oh, an emergency, blah blah. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Oh no.
Like, and then so I had to communicate with my boss about this is potential. And so tomorrow morning I'll be working. I'll be traveling to go deal with this person's potential emergency.
It's great getting like my so I'm talking to one of my buddies that's currently playing through Survivor, and he's gotten to the point where it's like, oh my god, like crap hits the fan when you get to like hour 15 in the game. Like it just becomes
Oh, wait. Am I on?
Yeah, you're on.
Okay, there we
Oh, there
go.
we go.
God damn, dude. Because listen, the call was down here in the bottom right of my screen. I kept clicking it, and I didn't have the end call, join call, any of that shit. And then when I clicked over on the left side to actually go back to our group or whatever, it was right there. Holy hell.
Wow. All right,
Man.
well, we're gonna do
Okay. Sorry about that.
I'll splice this together. I'll just like say one last thing about Survivor, and then I'll ask Milton about his experience with May the 4th, and we'll take it from there.
All right, sounds good.
Just give me one moment. I'll just have to. I actually have to edit the podcast this week, guys. It's gonna be crazy. I just usually just like rip it and put it right up in like 5 minutes, but this is easy. I can fix this.
Sorry for interrupting your story, Milton.
No, you're good, man. It's work, dude. Ain't nothing important. Listen, it's important shit, but like I'm annoyed with it already. So like I was hoping for a quiet, like, because I'm on call from like today to next.
Does that mean you have to work like a full day tomorrow, or just like half the day or something?
If something comes in that's an emergency, I'll have to handle it.
Gotcha.
So it's like, so I'll be working in the morning a little bit after I work out. So yeah, it's just, yeah, it's crazy.
Damn.
I'm deleting this.
Oh yeah,
but,
Milton.
like I do have, like I said, updates for my week in Star Wars. I wanted to talk to you guys about this last week. I know things were crazy with you with your car, Chris.
Oh,
but
yeah,
I do have some stuff to talk about.
Freaking the party that was preparation that was going on way too long than I expected. So it's all right.
Oh yeah, life comes up.
Yeah, for once, life actually came up on my end.
Yeah.
I was going quite a streak. I was like, every 9 o'clock, every Friday, I'm good to go. And then I finally ran
11:30 or 11.
Yeah, we were going on to like 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah, we still had a few people in here actually chatting, Milton, too, that late. Surprisingly.
Yeah, they were like, "Oh,
yeah, I watched a little bit last. So like after, I think it was Saturday morning, I put it on a little bit when I was getting ready, and I saw like some guys were chatting in it. I'm like, yeah, they went late, and the people are still interacting, which is cool.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah, it was cool.
Usually,
I don't know.
Usually I watch it when I'm not doing the podcast, like the next day.
Yep, that's how I do it too.
So.
Yeah, Milton, since you're on the phone call with your boss, long story short, so my little May the 4th thing, so we actually, over at my grandma's yesterday, since we were over there, we had relatives in from out of town. We watched the original trilogy
but it was the original trilogy VHS copies my grandma made 30 years ago before the 97 releases came out. Like these were the actual original like cuts of the movie. So, you know, it was just cool like getting to like watch those, and like I was saying to Chris, like we only watch those maybe twice a year because it's like God, I don't want those tapes to ever get like ruined or
Right.
something because they're you know artifacts at this point. It's like man, I don't know, it's just cool like watching the original
I
trilogy.
need to go. So I've seen, you know what though, recently, I know I saw someone, where did I go recently? And I saw someone had the movies in like the black cases, like the black VHS
Yep.
cassettes, where it was like green, purple, and blue, with like the lettering.
Mm,
Because you know,
yep.
I had the gold edition, well, the special edition gold box.
That's what I have
Here.
too here.
Yeah. So, and I'm also just get those, just to be like, all right, I have those too, because I have them on Blu-ray, I got them on the tape. So, yeah.
Oh yeah.
But no, let me say my weekend Star Wars actually weeks because it's been
Yeah, I would say
accumulating.
you got a few weeks you'll be able to talk about.
Hold on one second.
No,
Let me
I think
hold on one second. Sorry to interrupt. I just want to
you're
kind of like try to make a nice cut in this because this has been like 10,
good.
15 minutes of like
Oh, so you
just
can
like
finish your Jedi Survivor thing.
yeah, I just want to
Yeah.
make it so like to people listening just don't all of a sudden like just hear Milton talking or whatever. So
Oh,
I'll try to like
Chris. Okay, so you were in the point about you were when I asked you, what's a good time frame to talk spoilers for this
oh,
game,
that's
and
right.
that's where we got chopped off right at that point. You were about to break it down, like you were saying 40 hours and 20 hours or how many hours or whatever, and then that's when we cut. So like we were right in like
Yep.
the when's a good spoiler talk for video games.
All right. There we go. There we go. Bringing that up. Hold on one second here. Will this work? Will this work? Okay, that should do it. I'm bringing up like the chat window, so we should be good. Okay. Yeah. As far as what looks like the best time to talk spoilers for video games, very hard because it's a long format thing, right? So you know, with the series, you get them on a weekly basis. Like 2 days later, people are talking literally about the stuff. The movies, it's a little bit longer, I think.
Yep.
It's hard. I mean, because I had to basically block myself out from social media until I beat the story, and because I was just so worried that. And even EA put out a message saying like, "Don't spoil it." And when the damn developer puts that out, you know there's going to be some bombs dropped. Um, so, I mean, it's hard because everybody plays games at a different frequency. It's a lot more taxing because it's not just you sit down and absorb something for 30 minutes. You got to play through the game, which is 20 hours long, just the story
Yeah.
itself, you know? So
Well,
it's hard to answer
maybe a
that
good time to
because,
talk spoilers for the game would be when EA is actually posting about it, like eventually.
yeah, and I don't even know if they ever
Maybe.
would. I mean, not for another year because these are like some big fates of
Mm,
characters that are left in the balance, you know, left hanging in the balance. But just to finish it up, I can actually say I'm not a madman for thinking that this is the best Star Wars we've gotten in Disney era because my buddy JT Hogan is literally having the same exact reaction I had when playing the game live. I'm messaging him back and forth because it's like, oh yes, somebody else has seen the light. That Jedi Survivor has one of the most evocative, emotional weight stories in Star Wars since like Return of the Jedi or something. It's insane. And I'm not saying that because I'm a huge, you know, Cal Kestis fan that has the BD1 droid. I can actually say that because other people are saying it, so I don't feel like a madman. So, yeah, do yourselves a favor. If you have an Xbox Series X, a PS5, a PC that can run it, like this is the best $70 you'll ever spend for Star Wars. It's that good. And speaking of, we got a new person here. Not a new person, but Milton has joined us for Outer Rim Transmission 105. And we have a lot to catch up on, man. I know life has gotten busy for the both of us, but it's nice that all three of us are back again together. So fill us in with what's been going on with you in Star Wars and just the fun stuff, man.
Yeah, man. Like you said, life's been getting in the way, but it is what it is. We're here to talk Star Wars, not adulting. But no, like so a couple updates. I know today is Revenge of the Fifth. Yesterday was May the 4th. So yesterday, when I was working, I was coming back home, and there's this new retro, because you guys know I'm into the retro games, and I always like want to collect my game collection. And I think one of the most recent pictures I sent you guys was me playing Star Wars Rogue Squadron on the Nintendo 64. That was like a couple weeks ago. I had to break that out and play it. So, and that game still holds up. It's still amazing. It's a very challenging game if you don't understand like the dynamics of how to play it.
Yep.
And it took me a minute to get back into the rhythm of playing that game because I'm like, yeah, it's fire. Right now, I'm in the process of looking for Super Empire Strikes Back on Nintendo 64 because your boy just purchased Super Star Wars on Nintendo, or not, or Super Nintendo. So I have Super Star Wars and I have Super Return of the Jedi. I have to get Super Empire. I'll have that collection.
I remember the Wampa fights. Oh my gosh.
Oh, dude.
Pain in the ass.
Like Super Empire is so good. So good.
Oh yeah.
Now yesterday, made a special trip to the store when I was coming home, and you guys already know I love Episode 3, and I've had this game for like 20 plus years almost. Right? So Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith on PlayStation 2. I play at least a couple times a year, so I've always had this one. So I broke it out and played it this weekend just because I was like, okay, it's dope. So then when I was at the store, I'm looking around, thinking, oh, what else? Because they had a special. They said everything that's Star Wars is 25% off.
Oh,
next 2 days. So I'm like, okay, I'm looking. They got everything. So I found this bad boy, Star Wars Bounty Hunter.
Oh, that's
man.
Yep.
That's awesome.
That was $12.
12, dang.
Yeah, then I found Star Wars Jedi Starfighter.
On
PlayStation 2.
Oh yeah, that looks awesome. I always wanted to play that.
And then I found Star Wars Starfighter.
Awesome.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I found those games. I want to eventually take some time to play Jedi Starfighter, Fighter, and Bounty Hunter, because it's been years since I've even touched those games.
Yeah.
And I remember playing them when I first came out, and they were hard. I need to look for Battlefront 2. I need to find that on PlayStation 2.
Yeah, I
that's gonna be a hard one. That game's expensive to get.
The original Battlefront games are very pricey. Yes. Like if you want to buy them, like I looked them up before of course I got them on like digital and Xbox now, but before that, like when you're looking, I mean, they're almost basically full retail price, if not more, a lot of times. And it's like,
and here's the thing, whoa. And you're absolutely right, Ben, because every time I go to these stores that are around me that are very like into the retro stuff, like I have, for example, do you guys remember the Super Game Boys where you put the little Game Boy in?
Yep.
Game Boy, like, that's like $120, and I have one still at my house.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, like, I can probably go on eBay and sell it for like $200 if I wanted to.
Yeah.
So it's just like stuff like that. It's like those type of games, like those Star Wars games that are really cool that people still play, like us. They're going to be expensive, but they're worth it. In my opinion, they're worth buying. Because I'm going to keep those until the day I die. Like, they're not going anywhere. Like, they're staying in the collection. My brother and I, we try to always be on the lookout for different games, whether it's for Super Nintendo, PlayStation 2, or Nintendo 64, to collect. And it's like, you cannot let those go. Like, those games are classic. Like, I need, if I had an Xbox still, I'd probably get the Obi-Wan game.
Well, that game's expensive too. That was like $100.
It is.
Oh yeah, it's like 100 easy. Because I've looked into it. Because guys, I've looked into buying an original Xbox to like play that game, and you can't even get the game. I mean, the game's $100. It's like, I'm not gonna pay $100 for a 23-year-old game or whatever it was. So it's like,
I don't know, Ben. I tell you what, you say that, and listen to me. I normally I would say the same thing, but I can probably get an Xbox right now, probably for like $25 somewhere.
Oh yeah,
and I'd be willing to invest. Getting Obi-Wan just because that game is so good, and it's challenging. Where it take you a minute to relearn how to play it, and you'll be invested. Like, man, I forgot how good this game was. I forgot this was in it. So I would consider it if I had that type of free time. Honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's not far off from the current price of games out there. 70. I spent
True.
$90.
Yeah.
I spent $90 on Jedi Survivor. $90 spent, well spent, well spent. For like the extra outfits and crap like that. I'm like, whatever, give it
True.
to me. I don't care, give it to me.
And the Obi-Wan game's incredible.
Yeah,
I love that game.
I don't know if
Yeah,
you'd be able to
it's
put the
dope.
disc in an Xbox Series X though. Oh wait, you don't even have an X with the disc drive.
No, I have
thought
the
it would work
S.
with the disc drive.
Yeah.
I know it's backwards. I don't think it's
Oh,
backwards compatible even.
yeah.
Mm-mm.
Here's the thing though, if these companies were smart, and again, I got more gaming updates for you guys, by the way. But anyway, if these companies were smart, they would go get these retro games and make them digital. And I mean, I'm talking about all the ones that are classics, like Obi-Wan, like the Starfighters,
Mhm.
like
Like the Nintendo games for like they should port
Yeah.
all those games you were talking to us about. They should port all those to the Switch.
easily. And I'd be on that all day, every day, because I like the old stuff compared to the new stuff. Like Chris,
Oh yeah.
out of the three of us, you're the one that's into the newer stuff, and I
Mhm.
respect that. But I'll play Revenge of the Sith, and I'll be into it like it's day one of me buying it.
Mhm.
Which reminds me of another Star Wars game. Do you guys remember the arcade Star Wars trilogy Star Wars game?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Chris, you
That
never heard of it?
game.
Which one? What?
It's the one where you are you play on Hoth,
Oh wait, are
or
you
you
talking about like
play
literally in
on
an arcade?
Endor.
you're Endor, or you're on
That
the
one.
Death Star,
Oh
The
yeah,
trench
yeah,
run.
yeah,
Trench
yeah.
Run, and
That
you
one's cool.
beat those levels and you fight Vader, or you fight
Oh yeah.
Boba Fett.
Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Yep.
So so a couple weeks ago, my lady and I went to the one mall. Went to a mall that was actually still open, and they had the Star Wars arcade trilogy game there.
Oh man.
When I told her, I said, if I had money like that, I would put that in my house. Like, if I had money to buy that arcade, I would put that particular system in my home. That's how fire it is.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That'd be a cool piece, like in a basement or something. With
Exactly.
all your stuff.
Yeah.
I told her I was so excited. I'm like, text your brother, because her brother's a nerd too. I was like, text your brother if he's heard of this game. And she did, and I'm thinking, yeah, this game's fire. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
And then speaking of the lady, so you know how we're making her watch the movies. So we watched episode 1 and 2 the last couple weeks.
Oh.
Ooh,
I thought
what'd she
wasn't gonna
think?
watch Star Wars for a while after her experience last time.
She loves Jar Jar Binks.
Wow.
That's great.
She loves that
That's
character.
great.
I don't know. Literally, we're sitting there watching it. We're watching episode 1, and I was like trying to explain to her, like, who the characters were. Now you can't. No, we're not going to talk about episode 3. She hasn't watched that one yet,
Oh, okay.
so I don't want to spoil that for her. But yes, but like she's like, oh, I like Jar Jar. She laughed at all his jokes. I'm looking at her like,
Yeah.
he ain't that great. So then, like, I texted my brother. I was like, I can't believe she likes him. And my brother made a funny joke about it. And literally, like, my girl's brother-in-law was like, yeah, no one likes Jar Jar. Like, because he's a Star Wars fan too. So, like, it's like, yeah, no one loves this character except for you. So, but I get it, because she's very, like, her personality just, it makes sense she would like Jar Jar, but I just thought that was a takeaway. But she really liked episode 1. And she actually liked Attack of the Clones.
Oh.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Wow.
Yeah. She liked I think she liked the love story that was there.
She's gonna be a prequelist.
Yeah.
very
I
cool.
mean, yes and no. I will say she's fascinated about Palpatine. I
Oh.
think she low-key likes Palpatine, because
Mm.
she's like, oh, she's like, is Palpatine Sidious? Blah blah blah. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, you have to just watch it. Like, Sidious controls everything, but Palpatine's part of that government. So I'm like, you got to just pay attention.
Yeah, that was the cool thing. Right back in the day, people were like, "Wait, is that the same guy as the Emperor?" Like, people weren't exactly sold yet, but like, then it became
Yeah.
reality, and you're like, "Yeah, it made so much sense."
Well-
Yeah, he's pulling the
well-
strings. And...
Well, I have a funny story about that back in the day with the Emperor, since we're talking about this older Star Wars stuff and reminiscing here. So, during that time period when Phantom Menace came out, of course, it was 99 and then 02. So I remember it was before
it was before Attack of the Clones came out. Before we had really seen like Sidious, like really seen him, like how we see him more in person in that movie. Um, but like, so when they released Emperor, or when, so I remember as a kid, I was like, 7 years old, 8 years old, and I got a Emperor Palpatine figure. It was one of those old Power of the Force figures,
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
and I remember as a kid, I was like, wait a second. I put the puzzle pieces together. I was like, wait. And I had the Palpatine figure from Phantom Menace, and I held them up next to each other. I was like, wait a second, this is the same guy. Like, so like I remember as a kid, I was like, I think I know who the bad guy is when I was watching Phantom Menace, and it's like, good times back then.
Great times, yeah. So I know our next adventure is to eventually watch Revenge of the Sith. I don't know about the sequel trilogy yet. I just don't know yet. We'll see what happens. But she's definitely gonna watch Revenge of the Sith, and it'll probably get her to watch not Obi-Wan, maybe Rogue One. We'll just see. I think that might be too much for her. But Revenge of the Sith I think she'll like. Because she really liked. I think she likes Anakin, and she loves Padme. She's like, oh, Padme's badass. So yeah,
Awesome.
so, yeah. And that's my updates for the movies. Again, Jar Jar, that's her guy.
That's great. What'd she think of all the like some of the crazy stuff from Attack of the Clones, like the creatures, like the Acklay, and like some of the fighting? And did she enjoy those things?
I know. Oh, she didn't like Geonosis because she said that was
the bugs.
Yeah, she said the bugs was creeping her out, and it was just too much.
Yeah.
So, but she's like, she loves Padme. She doesn't like 3PO. I think she gets annoyed with 3PO, which I think that's most people. But she likes R2. Because she's like, when did R2 learn how to fly? I was like, oh yeah, he always could fly. He just didn't do it in the original trilogy.
And in those moments we've seen him. That's all.
Yeah. So, nah, she's definitely becoming a Star Wars head. She's not a nerd like me, but she at least knows stuff. So I'm like, well, I might have to wife you up now that you watch the movies. So
hey, there you go. That's the most important thing. You gotta get the person you're dating or with to at least watch the movies, somewhat enjoy them. Like I was cracking up laughing. Like one of our YouTube guys we follow around here, John Campia. He was telling his like story with him and his wife, and he told her, he said, listen, like, your opinion of this movie series is gonna like determine whether we're probably gonna stay together or not. So like you need to really probably enjoy these by the time we end up watching them. And like she ended up loving them and all that. And it's just great hearing people's like Star Wars stories, like how they interact and like get put into like relationships and stuff. Like that's always a really fun aspect in my opinion.
Yeah, no, and it's funny because she now gets references that I drop. Like, so when we first started like talking, I used to make comments like, "Oh, this is gonna be so messed up," but it's just me being funny. Like, if I see like a really big like obese person, I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's a Jabba the Hutt." She's like, "Why would you say?" It's like, "What is that?" And then so finally, when she saw Jabba, she's like, "Oh, that makes sense why you would say that." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's a Jabba the Hutt." Or old girl looks like Jabba the Hutt. So she now gets it.
That's hilarious.
Yep.
It's just like, I mean, she now understands my sense of humor when I use movie references, whether it's from movies that's non-Star Wars or Star Wars. So yeah,
this is where the fun begins.
Yeah.
I can use the
and she was trying to encourage me to wear a Star Wars shirt yesterday at work, and I was like, well, I can't do that. But she's like, well, you need to wear one in general. So yeah, I wore one yesterday. After work, but yeah, she understands. She's all about the culture now.
Awesome.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah,
that's awesome, man.
Be one of us.
Yeah,
one of us.
Right.
Oh man, well, it was a very big week, as y'all could imagine, for May the 4th. There was a lot of releases this week. A lot in publishing. We had a brand new book that's tying together and ending phase 2 of the High Republic, written by Kip Van Scott. We have Path of Vengeance. I'm just about midway through that one at this point. I did get it a little early, thanks to the people over at Disney Lucasfilm Press for sending that a couple weeks early for me. So yeah, very large book, 500 pages, very dense, but it's a lot of great info. So look for that review soon. Other than that, we got Not 2, not 3, not 4, not even 6, but we got 7 comics on one day. It was insane. Marvel, learn how to space your stuff out. I mean, I get it. You want to put this stuff out for May the 4th, but I mean, gosh, it was crazy. And then that's not it, because then there's a new comic book day issue for tomorrow. It's new comic book day. So if anybody out there has been interested in comics, tomorrow's the best day to venture out, find your local shop, get your free comics, and do buy something to help support your local comic book shop, because yeah, I go there every week to my local place, and it's a kind of a fun experience, because the guy that's always behind the counter, his name's Dale, and this is Comic Relief in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. And it's so funny because we're always talking, we're always chatting Star Wars. Every week I pick up the comics because that's all I get is Star Wars comics. And we were talking, it's like we have this feud where like he hates Andor, but he loves Mandalorian. So he's always taking shots at me every other week or whatever, like, oh yeah,
Sounds like
Andor is,
me.
like, the worst Star Wars. Yeah, I was thinking it's like, it sounds like bed. And like so we always have like this friendly conversation, and that's just part of my week in Star Wars every week. It's just chit chatting with him about the latest in Star Wars and everything else. So yeah, definitely go out there. There's going to be a High Republic adventure story that's going to be a crucial story for Lula Talisolo and her fate after the fall of Starlight Beacon. So you're going to want to check that one out by going to your local shop. I believe it's just in the U.S. I don't think they have that in the UK or anything. Maybe they do. I'm not sure. And that wasn't all. That wasn't all. So we had the Young Jedi Adventures. I was going to say the High Republic Adventure. The Young Jedi Adventures. This is the preschool age range Star Wars show that's airing on Disney Junior, and they also have all 7 episodes available to stream on Disney Plus right now. They put that up yesterday. It's interesting how they structure it. It's like, okay, you got one episode, but it's split up into 2 completely different stories, and I've really enjoyed them. I've watched 4 of them so far, and it's one of those fun shows where it looks great. It looks really pretty. It's actually really engaging for an adult that's watching a preschooler show just for the hell of it. I'm like, this is like a Sunday morning cartoon or Saturday morning cartoon. This is really fun. Don't go in there expecting, learning about the Old Republic or Revan or Darth Bane or anything like that. But what you'll get out of it is a entertaining thing for the adults that are watching with their kids. Like if I,
Yep.
watch it with my niece or nephew, I'd be like, sure, let's go watch some episodes of Jedi Adventures, and then I would be talking to whoever about certain things and certain aliens, because it's always fun seeing the different aliens, like a Shadrafan or a Gregorian or a Rhodian or a Twi'lek in the back. Be like, hey, that's that kind of alien, like or whatever. But they have
Mhm.
really good like stories about things that kids have to learn, like really good stories, really good lessons, really good themes. That it's a Star Wars story, but I think they show valuable lessons that they're giving out to the viewers out there. So that's the best kind of thing you could do. A little bit of entertainment, but also a lot of learning at the same time.
Yeah, hey, that's good. I'll keep that in mind too, moving forward, because I have a niece. She's 2 years old, so
Oh,
as
it's
she gets a little
perfect
bit
for her.
older,
Yeah.
so it's perfect to like give her a little thing to watch, because she's already loving Star Wars and she's
Oh,
only 2. Like anytime she sees Grogu, she just has to go up and hug my Grogu stuffed animal every time she sees him, and she carries him all around the house anytime they're over here visiting. And so Star Wars is already rubbing off on her, and she's just turning 2, so it's like it's a good sign.
oh yeah. And the other thing, it wasn't just that, but we had Star Wars Visions Volume 2. We have 8 new episodes, 8 new shorts, I should say. This time it's going around the globe. There at Star Wars Celebration, we got previews of the directors, creators from South Africa, from the UK, from Ireland, from South Korea, from Spain. I'm leaving out a couple I can't list off the top of my head, but Milton, I know this is some of your favorite Star Wars. Have you watched any of these so far?
Actually, it's funny because I forgot this was coming out this week, and this morning at the gym, I started
Ooh,
the series. Oh, in
okay.
season 2. I watched the first 2
Oh,
episodes.
let's hear about it, because neither
Um,
Ben or me have heard about it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
we
let's
haven't
get
we
you
haven't
back,
we haven't
because
watched,
I
and I
don't
haven't
know
looked at
anything
social
about it.
media. So you're our
oh,
first.
okay.
You're my first interaction to it, Milton.
Yeah, so the first 2, so the first episode is titled Sith.
Mm-hmm.
It's just titled Sith.
Cool.
And actually, it's a cool episode because I don't know if you guys know, like, I'm a huge art fan. Like, people really don't know that about me. I actually really enjoy art, going to museums and galleries. And the reason why I bring this up because the episode is kind of based off of like based on like of an artist trying to like find their vision and finish a painting and get through like writer's block or painter's block or whatever. And she's trying to like the people as painters trying to figure out like who they are when they paint and express themselves. So this episode very much was about like pretty much this person like trying to paint their destiny. And how it looks is like the episode looks like it's brushstrokes of like, you know, a painting. And it's once you see it, you'll know what I'm saying. But you'd be like, oh, like that's the setting and that's the animation that they use, but it's really, really cool how they look like it's paint brushstrokes. But anyways, the first episode is so good. Like it's strong storytelling. The Sith Lord that this character deals with needs to be in a live action movie because he sounds cool, he looks cool.
Interesting.
I love how they try to like just tell the story of someone's destiny and choosing who they are as a whether they're a Sith user, Jedi user, whatever. So dope. Loved episode 1. It's titled Sith. Check it out. They did a really good job at setting the tone for this season, just like they did 2 years ago with The Duel. Wasn't The Duel the first episode of season 1?
Yep.
So they do a really good job at setting the tone for this particular season. And the animation is great. The storytelling is great. Again, I have no complaints of that particular episode. They had me hooked from day one. Episode 2 is called Screecher's Reach. And that's with some children. This is the Irish studio. Because you can hear the Irish dialect when they're talking. And the animation is pretty solid too. I think after watching this episode, this might be Chris's favorite episode when like of the first couple.
Interesting.
Just because like I know Chris, you'll watch stuff more with like that, like with kids related, but you'll see this journey of this particular character and how it ends. And it's a good ending, but it's also a sad ending. But I think you're gonna be like, wow, that was well told. I feel like you would like Screecher's Reach because it's a ghost story too, which is awesome.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. So those first 2 episodes are solid. Like I think thus far, like that was probably my favorite episode because how it ended. Episode 3, I started it. I wasn't really into it. Now the animation looked like do you remember the Anti-Matrix movie? Animation.
Animatrix?
Remember when that came out? It's called the Animatrix. Back in like 2005 or whatever. Some of the film animation from like the Japanese companies did those shorts.
Yep.
Yes. This particular episode kind of has that feel of like the Matrix or of the Anti-Matrix like animation. So the story was okay. It wasn't hooking me. So thus far it was kind of weak, but I wasn't paying attention because I was getting ready to go to work. I need to actually sit down and restart that.
So you're locked in.
Doing things half.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I want to watch this, but I had to get ready to go to work. So I need to actually restart that episode and watch it and like, okay, and digest it. Cause it looked great visually. I just wasn't paying attention to the story. I was just so focused on other things. But those first 2 episodes, dope. Like they set the tone of this season.
Cool.
So I would recommend watching it. Thus far, it's done its job to get me hooked to finish the next 6.
Hell yeah. That'll be our next episode next week as we'll be talking in a lot more detail. I'll have watched all of them by then. Ben, I hope you've watched all of them by then.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna just pretty much watch one per day leading up to next week.
I don't know about that. I'm telling you guys, like those first 2 episodes, they're gonna get you hooked. I'm not even joking because legit, like the Sith episode, yes. Screecher's Reach, I think it will like you'll be like, man, like the potential that they could tell with 15 minutes. And it's like, wow, how did they pull this off? And it's like, I want to see that second episode is gonna make you think, I want to see what happens to that character. Like
Man,
That's
I'm probably gonna watch. I'm probably gonna watch the first two tonight after the podcast, Milton.
I'm
With how
telling
you're
you,
talking.
I'm telling you that second episode, you're gonna be like, I want a sequel to that episode. Kind of like
Interesting.
2 seasons or 2 years ago when was it the finale
the Ninth
of the
Jedi
episode
one.
of that
The Ninth
series
Jedi.
where- yes, and you're just like, man, what
Yeah.
what happened to that character?
Yup.
It's like that. So I'm telling y'all, like, I promise you, you're gonna love those first 2 episodes.
Guys, I'll be back in like 45 seconds. I'm gonna run to the bathroom real
Yeah,
quick.
we have Dark Nerdy
Okay.
Gonzo chiming in on the chat. He says Vision Season 2. Where do I begin? This season was lit. All were
Yes.
gems. A lot of fresh takes on Jedi versus Sith in the majority of
Yes.
the episodes. Screecher's Reach is number 1.
Yeah, I'm telling you, like Dark Nerdy. Listen, he's right. Like that episode, and again, I'm so glad that I stopped watching, like paying attention after that episode because like it made me really think. I'm like, damn, like I want to see how this plays out. I want to see, and I'll give you a snippet of it. Like it's about these 4 kids that are going on this journey looking for this ghost. Okay, now one of the characters, she's being guided throughout this whole episode. But there's a lot of growth going on. And like there's a reason why she's being guided because she's desiring something else. And though they explain that. But how it ends is heartbreaking, but you also know it's best for that character. And it's like, damn, I want to see this journey fulfilled. You give me 3 or 4 more episodes of this character's growth through this journey. I would love to see that fulfilled. I guarantee you, Dark Nerdy Gonzo probably said the same thing, or at least something close to that, thinking, man, I want to see what happens to this character further.
Oh man.
Like that's how they do a good job in a 15-minute window to get you hooked to these characters. So,
you say, listen to
I'm telling
Millen,
you.
he's right on the money with that.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like no bullshit. Like I was just sitting there thinking, like, damn, like they told this story in 15 minutes and it's that good.
That's the thing. Like
Again.
Star Wars has the potential because they've done that with the Tales of the Jedi, the Dooku episode when he falls to the dark side.
Yeah,
Yes,
look, it was
That
a
was
short one.
incredible.
Yes, and that's and this is what's frustrating because legit, we're getting foreign studios who I'm sure are very popular in their countries. I mean, globally throughout the world that I've never heard of, and it's like they're given chances to tell Star Wars stories from a very different perspective, but it feels like it's Star Wars, like because they're bringing their own cultures into Star Wars. You know, like they're bringing the Irish culture in this particular episode. The first episode was more like a Spanish, painter feel to it, like, you know what I'm saying? And it's like that felt like an episode of just like Star Wars in general to me. I'm thinking it didn't feel out of place. So I'm telling you, like those first 2 episodes get you hooked. Episode 3, like I said, I gotta go back, I gotta actually rewatch it and pay attention, and I'm hopeful it's good just like the first 2.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I noticed about the episodes, I did scan through them real quick on Disney Plus before we hopped on here to the podcast, and I noticed some of them. There's a couple that are like 21 or 22 minutes actually. Like later on, it's like the 6th or 7th episode, I think, or 8th.
Yeah.
So like, we have a couple longer ones in there even too as well.
Yeah, I saw that as well, and like I said, I'm excited for it. Like I probably I think on Sunday I'll probably finish them because I don't really do much on Sundays. So I think after I get through my morning, I might just watch the rest of Visions and be like, okay, like this is Visions is. I'm gonna just come out and say it. Visions is in my top 10 of Star Wars content
Of all time?
because season 1, of all
Whoa.
time. And some people might say, "Oh, Milton, you're BSing." I'm like, no BS
No, you
on here.
aren't.
Like I would say obviously a couple of the movies are in that top 10. I would say Tales of the Jedi is in that, Clone Wars, Visions, and probably the first couple seasons of Mando.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a good top 10 list right there. I mean, I don't say, and I'm talking about just visual content of us like watching TV shows, shorts, that type of thing. I'm not including games or stuff like that.
Yeah, no, my girlfriend, that's her favorite thing right now is Visions. I mean, I think she started volume 2 even before I have, which is saying a lot.
Yeah, I'm not saying nothing else about it because, like I said, just watch it. Just watch the series, and I'm gonna finish it later this weekend. But the first two will get you hooked. Dark Nerdy Gonzo, he knows what he's talking about. Especially those first two episodes. Fire.
Wow. That's crazy that like both of us, Milton, are saying in the last week we've seen some of the best Star Wars ever, right? It's
Like,
2023. It's like
you know, and that's
I consider this game one of the
listen,
best, and
and
you're
this
like, this show is one of the best. Like, this is a good time to be a Star Wars fan.
that's what I'm saying. Like it's like, and this is what like, and this is a criticism, but also a praise of Star Wars. Okay, and I got to give Kathleen her credit here because I'm sure she has a lot to do with bringing these animators in. She's letting these people tell their stories. She's letting them be creative, and I'm sure there's some things that they got to put in there to make it feel the way that it feels, whatever. But it's a fresh take, but it also feels very familiar too. So that's the praise of it. The criticism is you should have been doing this shit in the movies. You know what I'm saying? Because like I'm just keeping it 100 because
True.
you had the potential to tell the most. You got the budget for these movies. You got the best writers in the world. You give us what you gave us. I could barely get through. What was I watching the other day? The Last Jedi was on TNT. I was like, I could barely watch this. I'm like, I'll put on Visions.
Well, spoiler alert,
I'll watch Obi-Wan.
We got like a 3-month break, so we're doing commentaries again. So you're gonna have to deal with
it.
it.
Like,
I know I've been saving Last Jedi for our commentary.
I'm telling y'all that's gonna be a struggle for me when we do that commentary. It is gonna be a struggle. I'm dead ass. Like I'll be like,
Yep.
you might have to not. I might not talk much on this one.
Oh man. Oh man. By the way, if any of you guys are gamers as well, we have the Fortnite crossover this week, and I think for several weeks, and it's really fun. I bought the 501st twin pack with the 212th Battalion clones. You have Anakin skin, you have a Padme skin, you have a battle pass that would unlock a Wolfpack skin, a Ahsoka Tano Legion clone trooper skin, as well as a Darth Maul skin, and a Coruscant guard skin. So it's all prequel love all the time in Fortnite right now. Ben, you were mentioning about Battlefront 2, or somebody was talking about Battlefront 2. It was Milton. This is basically Battlefront 2, like ad hoc inside of Fortnite right now. If you guys are going to be playing the game, if you have it, you're listening live. I know the Star Wars Underworld Discord is going to be playing the game tonight. I'll probably jump in for a match after our stream here tonight. But yeah, it's really cool. It's basically you're playing Battlefront 2 now because like everybody's got Star Wars skins. They have lightsabers you can get. They have like portals that you can find across the map, and you go inside the portal, and it's either like Obi-Wan or it's one of the force using characters, and you walk back out of the portal, and next thing you know, you have a lightsaber and you have the power to wield the force. So next thing you know, you're seeing like characters like force pushing, force like pulling, and like throwing lightsabers. It is really fun. So if you've thought about playing Fortnite, if you're a Star Wars fan, if you're listening to this, you are, go ahead, check out Fortnite. You can play on basically everything, including like the refrigerator these days. So you should be able to find it, and it's free unless you want to spend money on the skins. You could do that too. So there you go, Ben. I think it's your time to start playing Fortnite now.
I might. I don't know. I haven't played it in like 7 years, so I could download it.
It's
but
much
we'll
better
see.
when you don't play the no build mode, and I probably need to get flack
Mm,
for that, but it's just more of like Call of Duty without the build
Gotcha.
mode.
Nice.
Yeah. So today is Revenge of the Fifth. Our main topic today is talking about Sith. So I don't know who wants to start first, but I think we'll just kind of do a roundtable discussion for the next 30 minutes or so about just hey, let's talk about the Sith, what they mean for Star Wars, our favorite characters, why, abilities, all those sorts of things. Started off with Milton, making up for lost time. It's great to have you back on the show, and we're talking about I think what could be one of your favorite elements. I mean, you had that cool shirt you wear, or something where it's like the Kylo Ren, even though he's not a Sith, and it's like all the Palpatine and then the Emperor and Vader and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I don't know where you guys want to go with that. I guess we could just start off by just talking about at this current time in Star Wars. We could talk about Legends, we could talk about expanded universe, all the good stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's fine with me, man. You can start it off. I got you.
Alrighty. So for me, I think getting back into some of the comics. If anybody from Ion Canon is listening, Darth Momin or Lord Momin from the Charles Soule Star Wars Darth Vader comics from 2017. He is the ancient Sith character that was able to basically create life after death. Like the cool thing with the Sith are they can transpose their spirits into Sith objects, and he was able to do that with his helmet. And then whoever possessed the helmet would suddenly be overwhelmed by his presence and basically do what the presence, the ghost, was wanting them to do. So it got to the point where he was ended up to be the architect of Vader's castle on Mustafar. So it was a really cool story of this character that was kind of down on his luck and grew into power. Next thing you know, overthrew his master as all Sith do, and then he was able to just create something. And it took many tries. Like they have this cool like sequence in the comics where it's like, okay, this officer ended up getting the helmet, then they died, then somebody else picked up the helmet, then they died, and it just got transferred through years and years and years, and it ended up there. So when it comes to the Sith characters for me, I'm always very intrigued by just the history and what they leave behind and the artifacts and the holocrons, and even in Rebels we've seen like Malachor, where it was like, oh, you hear this voice and all this kind of stuff. So for me, it's like that seediness. There's always the darkness and the light of Star Wars, and there's always got to be an element. And oftentimes the Sith are the ones that are the ones, they're pulling the strings. They're leading our heroes into times of trial and strife that they have to overcome. Ben, what like I don't know if you heard of Lord Momin or if any of your we could go to like Old Republic characters first and talk about that back in time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was gonna say one of the one. I mean, he wasn't on my like list, but I assume that you were gonna probably bring him up. But yeah, like the whole Lord Momin thing, I thought that was a really cool story arc when that came out back in 2017. I remember when that came out. I remember seeing like the comic panel, like seeing Vader and seeing his mask and like all that stuff. Like like that whole idea of that character sounded really interesting to me, and I think like even back then, even in 26 years ago now, gosh, 6 years ago, one of the cool parts about that made me interested in that character was the possibilities of, hey, if we ever get an Old Republic or like a thing further back, like they could bring that character into live action or even an animated show sense, where basically, then eventually it's like that whole rewatchability thing with the shows. It's more of like a rereadability thing. Like, hey, you can go read this comic from like, say if that show would come out in, I don't know, 2028, you could go read this comic from 11 years ago where you see where that character's mask like ends up. So like, I always thought that character brought some interesting potential for like a future Star Wars project, like in terms of a show or a movie possibly. So that was one of the interesting aspects like that I found from that character specifically.
Oh yeah. Milton, what are some older Sith characters? You don't have to talk about Old Republic characters, but if we want to stick in that era, I mean, let's talk about Plagueis a little bit. I know you have experience with Plagueis. Most of us love this story that we read.
I mean, like that's funny because I was going to bring up either between Plagueis, Bane, or Malgus.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about all of them because they're all on my list.
Yeah. Because like I still go back and listen to some of the Darth Bane trilogy because they're so great. Again, very re-listenable books, rereadable books. Plagueis in particular, I mean, look, it was, when did Revenge of the Sith come out? 2005.
2005.
And then Darth Plagueis book came out, a couple years later after that? And it's like, you got one reference of this character in a prequel movie, and it was told very well, and everyone wanted to know, well, who was Palpatine's master? You know what I'm saying? Like, wait, Palpatine's the guy, but who's this Plagueis character? Like, he must have been the guy. And then we get this book, and it's like, damn, like, where's he been? And come to find out, he was around the whole time. It's just we didn't see him during the Phantom Menace. which again, like it's so cool to see how that character had such an impact on Star Wars, and we've never seen him. We've heard of him, we've read about him, and it's like, damn, he really was that important to the development of one of the most diabolical, evil villains of all time, and storytelling. So Plagueis and just what he could do when it comes to manipulation of life, and what's the phrase that they use in Star Wars about the dark side of the Force? He says the dark side is a pathway to many abilities that
Unnatural.
tend to be unnatural. Like, I want to see some of that stuff Plagueis was doing with that so unnatural. So
Yeah.
it's cool that he's that badass of a character. He stood out to me so much. It's like, yeah. Which goes back to obviously the Darth Bane and how he phased out the army of the Sith to make it the rule of two. He started that. How dope is that? And how proficient that really was for the Sith, because they were able to hide in the shadows and they changed their philosophy of what a Sith is. Which you look forward to Yoda's era, they weren't prepared for the new Sith. Bane changed the Sith where the Jedi weren't prepared for them 1,000 years later. Like how
yeah.
crazy and impactful that is.
That
And
that
then obviously Darth
yeah.
Malgus, like how badass he just looks from the old Republic games. Like I always tell myself, if Kathleen Kennedy come to me and said, Milton, we want you to play a Sith Lord, I'll be Darth Bane or I'll be Darth Malgus. Give me a mask, scar my face up. I'll be a Sith Lord. I'm already buff. I can play the character. I love the Sith. Like God, I'd be a Sith Lord if I could. Like dead ass.
Oh yeah.
I just love those characters.
Oh yeah, the Sith characters, they have such like a big impact on Star Wars as a whole. Like, we're sitting here breaking down Malgus and Bane and Plagueis, like all these characters. Like Plagueis, he literally was barely mentioned in live action. The other characters, in books, video games, etc. Like, so you have it's cool seeing how big and like impactful these characters are when we barely even hear about them, in the mainstream type of thing, So it's just that's always an interesting aspect to me, because like, I mean, how many times we see it happen all the time. Like one of the we see like the Plagueis, the whole conversation about Plagueis memed and gift and people posting on TikTok or Instagram reels. Like I literally see one all the time. I'm sure you do too, Milton, on Instagram, like with fitness stuff. Like there's always like it's like the caption at the top. It's like your gym buddies asking you how to do this or that, and it's Palpatine going like the dark side is a way that many think people can find things to be unnatural or whatever, blah 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 blah. Like that whole thing, like that conversation's always memed so much, and like it's cool seeing like how like those little things like that, they're everywhere still.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's impactful. Like it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I know the Sith are quote unquote supposed to be viewed as evil, but that's what's so beautiful about Star Wars, because this is why I love the Sith, because even Palpatine talks about it when he's talking to Anakin in the opera. He's like, and because Anakin says, well, the Jedi are selfless. They care about others. And Palpatine's like, and the Sith aren't,
Yep.
they're all about their strength and their passion. He's like, the Jedi are just as dogmatic. You know what I'm saying? Like they're just as culpable of doing evil or doing bad things. It's just we just choose, the people in Star Wars choose not to see it. And it's like I love that they put that twist on it. He's like, well, are the Sith really that bad? Now, I think most people will say yes, they are, but I'm sure if you really looked at their history, are they really as bad as the Jedi, or vice versa? Like, I mean,
well,
the
here's
Jedi probably did some off the wall stuff too. You know
yeah.
what
I
I'm
mean,
saying? Like,
here's
I
the
don't know.
thing.
I think the Sith has always been a very integral part of the philosophy of the Force, obviously, but even how people view life. They'll say, like, it's okay to like. So we all have evil in our hearts. You got to learn to like embrace it and work through it.
Yeah, I like the whole dichotomy of the light side and the dark side. So
Mhm.
you think that, and one of the, I forget which Star Wars comic did, or what writer put this in the comic of recently in canon, but it was like, you got to think of it from through this lens, and you know, the light side of the Force is like the known entities of the Force, the ways that they control the Force. The dark
Mhm.
side is not evil per se, but it's just a different way of using the Force, a different way that is not
Yes,
known by the Jedi. That the user, just because they use it, is not necessarily making them evil. It's just a different way of doing it. So I like
I
that
agree.
mentality
It's
of going down
it's
that path.
it's just like Obi-Wan said it. It's point of view.
Yep.
Yep.
I mean, it's point of view in the sense of how you use your power. I mean, look, the three of us here are very different individual people. Okay, but we're very passionate in our own way. I can be more aggressively passive or aggressively have passion. Let's say Ben wants to be a little bit more passive,
Yeah,
and Chris can be.
I'm definitely like the analytical like Thrawn type. Just sit
Well,
back and
I'm
like
about to say, no, I'm
watch
just
things.
giving
Yep.
examples. I'm saying
Yep.
like you can have
That's
passive,
me.
aggressive, but also like the in between, which would be the analytical, cynical,
Yep.
cerebral.
Mm-hmm.
All three versions of passion. What makes one better than the other or more evil than the other? Because I know I can be very calculating, but also be aggressive, but then be passive when I need to be. You
Yep.
know, like I mean, we all have the capability of being assertive and displaying that quote unquote ability of the Sith, but
Mm-hmm.
we all choose to use it differently. Just like if
Mm-hmm.
we were Jedi's, we would all use our powers differently, good, bad, or indifferent. You know?
Yeah, yeah, I find it very interesting because like in the current canon of Star Wars, especially looking at the High Republic stuff, there's certain things that happen where the Jedi are simply like, no, we can't help this person, and then like the people that are more evil aligned in that situation are like, I thought the Jedi are meant to help people. They're no better than us essentially or whatever because it's like
Yeah.
they're so dogmatic, like, oh, we can't be involved in those affairs and all this sort of thing, and it's like that's just as bad as the person that's like striking the person down, as the
Well,
person
look.
that's just like ignoring that person, leaving them to die. You know,
Well,
it's
Yeah.
I mean, look, we talked briefly earlier. I mean, about the Phantom Menace. Like, look, Qui-Gon literally says, "I didn't come here to free slaves." Like, and
yeah,
they know slaves are on Tatooine, and they're just like, "Oh, we're good."
Yeah. I mean, but he's probably thinking we're here to do it. We're here for a higher
Yeah.
purpose. Which again, how can I be mad at his point of view, his perspective of hey, we have to do what's best for the Republic. I can't worry
Yep.
Mhm.
about this individual. It's kind of like the Spock quote
Yep.
out of Star Trek. Well, how's something about if you got to save one or save many to save the few or something like that? Like the Jedi have that same philosophy where like I may have to sacrifice a few to save the many, but the
Yep.
Sith just do it loudly. The
Mm-hmm.
Sith will openly say, "I need to get rid of these group of people to fulfill the greater destiny of everything," and they're not quiet about it. That's the difference. You know what I'm saying? The Jedi are coy, cagey, and just like a little different about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
I
one's
want
bad or which one's evil?
to, yeah, I
You
want
know,
to go
or
back
which one's going to
to.
cancel?
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
I just want to go back to, we were talking about Darth Bane a little bit, and it's
Yeah.
important to note the stance that the Sith had back then because this is like a 800 BBY or something like that. And at the time, I by the way, the Bane trilogy is a must read. Like if you're looking to getting into the Legends expanded universe, like honestly, like that's one of the first things I would start with, because Drew
Start with what?
Carpathian, Darth Bane trilogy is like one of the
Yeah.
greatest. Like I remember reading that in college, and I was like telling my roommate every little thing about it. I was like so excited to like the story was amazing. I was like telling him all these details, and he was like looking at me like,
Right.
"Are you okay?" Like I'm just regurgitating like these amazing
Yeah.
moments because,
Do you remember how he got his name?
not really. It's been a while since I read it.
Oh, his real name is it's like Dex or something. It
Oh
begins
yes,
with a
something
Yeah.
with a D, something with a D. Yep.
something like that. The like Dexter or something like that. But he called himself Bane because his father was like an abuser,
Hmm.
and like he'd always say and like friends like, oh, you're the bane of my existence or something like that. So he
Hmm.
decided to take Darth Bane as his name because of his dad's abuse.
Oh man, yeah, and it was just
I was
badass
like,
because he's like working
yeah,
in the mines, and he's like the
yep,
lowliest of the low, and he like picks
yeah,
himself up by his boots and just like makes a name for himself. It's like one of those great
right.
stories.
Well, remember he kills like an imperial or he kills like a guard or somebody, and he has to go on the run.
Oh yeah,
So he
yeah.
joins like the imperial military, or the imperial like Sith or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever it was. And then it's like the Sith Academy. That's where he goes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it
Yeah.
was
So
interesting because, like, at that point, the Sith were legion. Like, there was hundreds and
yes,
thousands of Sith, and the problem was nothing was getting done because they were just bickering and fighting amongst themselves. They would just be killing each other all the time, and nothing was happening. So he created the thought bomb, which just like completely annihilated like all of them at once, and it was just a
right.
matter of like him with like uh his Padawan or his acolyte apprentice Zendaya, or no, not Zendaya, but
Mm,
Xana, Darth Xana.
it's like
Uh,
Xana, Zan,
Darth
something
Xana.
like that.
Yeah, so it was really neat. And then her storyline and throughout the three books, and at one like Bane was doing some of the most incredible things, and I believe he was actually he found like a journal of Darth Revan or something, and he was
um,
like learning the techniques from Darth Revan. So I love like the idea, and they carried this into the sequel trilogy with like, yeah, the Sith like absorb the information from the previous generations to like become
Mm.
stronger, and he's like literally floating through space at one point because there's like going between Onderon and Duxon. There is a little bit of space, so he literally like left the atmosphere, and that's not like how strong in the Force he was he able to like envelop himself in like a force bubble to like float
yeah.
through like a short amount of orbit to like go across like when he was flying on this like dragon thing. It was like that thing stuck out to me as one of the most badass sequences in Star Wars. I was like, holy crap, the power of the Force, whether you're a Sith or whether you're a Jedi, is just incredible.
Yeah,
Oh
no,
yeah.
that's tight. I mean, yeah, the stuff he was doing, man. I mean, Bane. Again, we 3 books about him, and people want to see him. Like, I think it's time for him to be in live action.
Yeah, we could get an Old Republic. Just imagine like a Bane series, like in the of course, with us watching it, Chris, like in a House of the Dragons esque like Bane series, like
Ooh.
oh man, it would be so good.
Oh,
I would
So
just
I mean,
love that.
I'm about to say, I know we got the announcement at Celebration. Chris, you were there. You bought the movies and what's coming out in their next 10 years or whatnot.
mm.
Like, I think what would have been beneficial. I know they're doing. Was they doing a Knights of the Old Republic movie or what?
Or
What is it? What are they doing?
Dawn of the
That's
Jedi. They're doing a 25,000 year story in the past
25,000
with
years
the first
in the
Jedi.
past.
yeah. Okay, we're getting that story. Fine. I think at least two, three mini series of Darth Bane would have been perfect to give
Oh
us.
yeah. Well, they
You know what I'm
actually
saying?
acknowledge that there's an Old Republic era now, so at least like we know they're probably working on something in
Yeah.
the books. They just can't say it
And
yet.
Well, the good thing is, Milton, though, like I'm not sure if you caught the picture of it. Like now they have like acknowledged like the timelines, like the 25,000 years ago, like the Old Republic, the High Republic, original. Like they acknowledged all these different like basically time periods, and like that's why they kind of explained. That's why they're doing like a movie here, a movie there, a movie there, because it's like they're spreading out the storytelling. So I think they're just kind of like laying the groundwork where they could potentially continue to tell stories in all three eras, basically, is what
right.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, no, I mean that's again, you know me. If you got a plan, that's all I need to hear.
Yep.
At least have a plan and try to be consistent. I mean, because I think even looking back on like the Sith Lords we're talking about right now, not we as Star Wars nerd heads, we know about these characters.
Mm-hmm.
We live, breathe, and eat Star Wars. I guarantee you, my father, who likes Star Wars himself, but he's not a Star Wars head like me, don't know Darth Bane, don't know Malgus, and all these guys. So you got average fans that like the movies that know who Darth Vader is. They don't know all about that Old Republic stuff. So, like, honestly, you have the potential right now, Lucasfilm and Disney. Listen to my voice. You have the potential to make billions more by telling those character stories. Because again, like you can get unknown actors to play these characters
Yep.
because they're not famous characters to the mainstream media or market of Star Wars. Or, you know what I'm saying? Fans know who they are. But you pull in the average Joe Schmo who's like, oh wait, who's the Darth Bane character? oh wait, snap, he was around back in the day. Let me go read a couple books. Let me invest in him. Oh, I like him. I'm gonna see the next 3 movies. I'm gonna see the next couple series. Anytime he mentions Sith now, Army of Sith. Oh, that Darth Bane guy was around there. I'm gonna go watch that now. Like, you can pull another audience in.
Oh yeah.
But that's
Oh
the
yeah.
key, though.
Yeah, I mean, you got Bane, you got Plagueis, of course. You know, we might get Plagueis maybe in the Acolyte or something
really
eventually.
Feel like
Who's the
very
Sith Lord
interesting.
from the Knights of the Old Republic 2 game with the mask, the white mask
Nihilus.
with the stripes?
Nihilus.
Nihilus.
Yes.
Nihilus was interesting.
That's another one now. Give us that one too.
Nihilus, like, wasn't he really not even like a humanoid? Wasn't he like an eminence of the dark side or something? Like, he fed.
Yeah, it was like
on the dark side or the Force. He was like, he hungered
like a vampire kind of.
Like like a Force vampire. It was very interesting. But like, even that game was like, I really enjoyed that game. I know a lot of people definitely don't like it as much as the first one, but it was cool to see like the triumvirate of the Sith, because then you had the Darth Scion, and I always like really liked his design of like, it's completely like 100% of his body is scarred, and he's shirtless, and he's just like this berserker of a lightsaber user. You know, I always like that character a lot.
No, he's dope. I mean, I'm telling you, like, Chris, you mentioned a character that not many people know about. So it's like you have all these potential characters, you really flesh out their stories. Like, honestly.
Oh yeah.
I think there's so much more you can pull from those jewels of characters that are on that side. It's like, wow, man, the stories you could tell.
Oh yeah. Now with these guys in mind, there's definitely one character that we for sure won't see based on like canon and stuff. We'll go a little more, even more Legends cut here. Especially, I mean, I know for sure you know a lot about him, Milton, and I think you know some stuff about him, Chris, as well. Darth Caedus, aka Jason Solo, like
I was just talking about him yesterday.
His character, like that was my big one. Of course, you know, we'll talk about like Vader and all that stuff eventually, but like the big one to me, like that impacted me a lot from like reading the books when I was younger and then teens and everything, was his character, because you know, you see his character. The great thing about the Yuuzhan Vong book series is, you know, it's like 25 books or whatever, so like there's plenty of time to develop all these characters in like a really long form content basically. And they you know, they take Jason Solo, of course Han and Leia's kid, because you have Jason and Jaina, which are the twins, and basically Jason, you know, he goes, and if I remember correctly, he like injures another Padawan or something in like a training session, and like basically that's kind of like the domino like to push him down the path of the dark side, because basically he starts to get into like more of like the Jedi knowledge or whatever, and then what is it, like he progresses eventually to that point or something.
So one, I mean, before I get to that, we kind of already got Darth Caedus, but watered down version with Ben Solo.
Yeah, I would say it's Kylo Ren's basically a watered down Darth Caedus, basically.
Yeah, but Darth Caedus, remember, he had a secret daughter.
Yep.
Well, Ben Skywalker or Solo had a secret daughter. Ben's freaking Solo. Jason Solo had a secret daughter, kind of like Anakin, so he's mimicking his grandfather's stuff. And then Umayya was that Sith remnant who was like trained by Vader, but she had a secret grudge against Luke because Luke like did something to her, like he hurt her or something like that. So then she kept calling out to Jason. So then Jason, Luke's son Ben, and like an apprentice went to go like look for like this Sith Lord at this like planet, and the female apprentice like found like who Lamaya was, but Jason was like, no, she needs to live because she can help me like save the galaxy. Like because he foresaw, he had the same visions that Anakin did, like seeing the future and how it can. He's like, I can't let you kill her, so he winds up killing that apprentice and wipes Ben Skywalker's mind from the like whole event because he don't remember what happened, and then eventually it comes back later in the books. But like that's how the domino starts, him going down the dark side. And then Jaina, his sister, figures it out later.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say it's great seeing like that progression too. Like of how his character goes from like, they perfectly progress him versus like rushing it because it's over multiple books. Like his character has
Yeah.
plenty of time to develop. Like early on in like his Jedi career, he wasn't like a great Jedi sword lightsaber fighter. Like you have those different things with his character, like that just slowly build and build and build and build to eventually get him to be like Darth Caedus, and then he, like some of the most impactful things from those books for me, anyways, was especially after the Heir to the Empire trilogy. You have Darth Caedus go and kill. He kills Mara Jade eventually,
Oh,
Yeah,
and like
he killed me in her books. Yeah.
yeah, I would say he kills Mara Jade, so that's like such a big moment. It's like, whoa,
Well,
this guy means business.
damn.
well, actually, let's go back further because you remember you got the Legacy of the Force books when he transitions into that Darth Caedus character.
Yep,
But remember the New Jedi Order books, which is the Yu Zhang
he was
Bong
on Vong.
story. That's when he gets tortured. He
Yep,
gets captured and tortured, and like
Whoa.
that's when you start seeing like how Jason he has that dark side, and it kind of like makes him harder, which that's why he becomes like the general of like the Galactic Alliance or whatever the hell they call it at the time. But yeah, you see that change starting in those other books during the Yuzhong Vong War. He's like when he's like in his early 20s.
yeah, and
So, but
it's
yeah,
cool. It's cool with him too. Like they make him, other than the Yuzon Vong, they make him like the definitive villain because like he's the second
Yeah.
strongest, like the main big bad. Like it's Luke and then him basically in terms of power level.
Oh, facts. Like because I think Luke was scared of him at one point, which I see why they did that in The Last Jedi. But Darth Caedus was a legit threat. He was legit
not a
threat to
15-year-old.
everything. No. And like Jaina was that dude. Like, and I wish Jaina would have been a great character to get too, but like I said, Jaina could challenge her brother. Like she was that good of a Jedi. Hell of a pilot, too.
Yep. Oh yeah, like
But,
his
yeah.
character definitely was one of the most like impactful ones for me for sure. Like in terms of like Sith that aren't are like our mainstream characters. His character for sure is just because we had him developed out for many books.
How does this guy become a Sith though? Like you always have to have a master
So-
and an apprentice. So did he have like any kind of a
He does.
apprentice or a
So
master?
what he does is so Lumaya was trained by Vader or something at that one point, whatever it
Oh.
was.
Yeah.
She takes him under his wing. So she's been slowly grooming him over time. So that's when like he hears her, he sees the visions, he meets her. He understands like, okay, she's a I need to have her around to like save the galaxy because he wants to save the galaxy. He wants to save his daughter. So his motivation is noble, but it's not right how he's doing it. So when I think Lamaya gets killed midway through the series, I think, from my recollection, he then starts grooming Ben, his cousin,
Luke's
to be his
son.
apprentice. Yeah, Luke's son.
Oh.
And Ben is going with it, but Luke's starting to figure out like something ain't right here. And then Ben starts figuring it out. He's like, okay, I'm not going to be his apprentice because he realized he killed my mother. Like Ben finds out.
Oh.
So yeah.
Oh, it's the Legacy of the Force books are absolutely incredible.
Chris,
like,
I'm telling
bro,
Chris, I told you this.
I don't
times.
want to read all this stuff.
Here's the
Because
thing,
it gives away
that
what's
book
gonna
series
happen in the
is the book
future.
series that inspired my Book of Boba Fett idea, where Milton, like that's the series that came with the 60-year-old Boba Fett hunting down a clone to find his DNA to stay alive, basically.
Yeah,
so
he's
like
his granddaughter. He finds his granddaughter.
Yeah, it's like his grandkid or whatever, and it's like that series. It fleshed out so many characters like Sith, Jedi, bounty hunters.
Chris, no BS, Chris. I'm telling you, you will listen. You will listen to the books too, for sure, Chris. I know you like the physical hard copies, but you gotta listen to the books too because they're that damn good. I mean, if whoever's watching right now, if you've listened to the books or read them, they're that good. Like this is why I get so mad at the sequel trilogy because you had the movies right. They're right there. The books are the scripts. You know what I'm saying? Just like tweak them a little bit, but you got the story. I'm telling you, Chris, you're gonna love them. I guarantee you, Chris, when you read those books, you're gonna be like, "Damn, I should have read these 10 years earlier."
we're getting new Jedi Order with Rey and stuff, so I wouldn't
Well,
be surprised if they
I
actually
mean,
pull some stuff from the books at that point, even though it's
great.
kind of out
I
of
hope
order.
they do.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
But
it's
in the meantime,
quality.
Chris, you still need to read them. Chris, it's your responsibility.
I
It's
got
your
so many canon
obligation.
books to keep track of. I would have to
I
just
hear
do
you. I
solely
hear you.
Legends.
There's
books.
only like 9 legacy books.
Facts. And Chris, I know you're a fast reader, so it's your obligation as a Star Wars fan and as a leader of this podcast to read those
Well,
books.
I'm starting from
report back on
the
them.
first book in the entire timeline when it comes out re-released in the Essential Legends collection for Dawn of the Jedi later this month. So
Yeah.
Hey,
it'll
there you
take me
go.
30 years.
There you go. Hey,
It'll
hey,
take me 30 years. I'll be like my friend Matthew Wilson from the Geeks Attic, who literally has read almost every Legends book.
Yeah.
there you
But
go.
I'm
That's
like starting from
that.
peg 1, and I'm reading the comics with the novels. I already have the Tales of the Jedi with Exar Kun and all those guys. I have that trade paperback right over there ready to read. So
That's
Yeah.
that's the
Oh.
Go on, Milton.
I'm about to say, like, you're absolutely right on that. But I was thinking of another Sith character that no one really talks about, and I don't know if he's even a Sith. I mean, he's a Dark Jedi most likely. Do you remember the Obi-Wan Jedi Apprentice books? Remember those books, Ben?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh yeah, fantastic
remember when-
books.
Yes, and Qui-Gon had an original apprentice before Obi-Wan.
Yep.
And that character became like a Sith or a Dark Jedi. He gets
Yep.
no love because he was
Yeah.
short-lived. But it's like, damn, like I want to see how that story plays out. I need to go back and reread those books.
Oh yeah, those books are fantastic as well. For fleshing out characters like that.
Yeah.
Another really good like Dark Jedi Sith. Well, let's just say dark side user at this point, since we're straying down some of the dark side stuff. Another really good one that I think is really impactful that I think they're gonna be doing kind of in the Ahsoka series with the 2 new like kind of Sith users we saw in the trailer. I think those 2 characters are gonna be kind of our pseudo like Joris Sabayoth for Thrawn. Like I think that's who those 2 characters probably will end up being, like something along those lines. And Joris Sabayoth, you know, he was like a dark or well, the clone of him anyways in the Heir to the Empire trilogy. Like he was a dark Jedi, and like his character was so cool. Like you know, Thrawn had him basically employed, like helping him out, trying to find like Luke, because Joris's big thing was he wanted to capture Leia so he could get the twins, basically her because she was pregnant at the time of the first book. And I actually, you know, I just finished the first book, Heir to the Empire, and like his introduction, I forgot how cool it was. Like Thrawn, you know, Thrawn walks into like Mount Tantus, and it's like, to me, it's cool seeing like the connections between like current canon to legend stuff. Like, you know, Thrawn goes to Mount Tantus, and there's plenty of like this old freaky Empire stuff that we're getting now. And, you know, they go in there, and like Joris Sabayoth is like, you know, showing them around all these like Empire artifacts or Palpatine artifacts. And like he's explaining to Thrawn, like, you know, basically about like, you know, just giving him a bunch of BS, distracting him. And then, you know, Thrawn's like, well, what happened to like the guard? And like Joris Sabayoth turns around and like shoots lightning at Thrawn. And it's like, whoa, I did not see that coming. Like I forgot about that scene in the book. And it's like, oh man. So it's cool just like seeing like him being like a dark Jedi like that, and how he's gonna like play out into this trilogy. So like his character is a really cool player in this trilogy of books. And you know, in Legends, there's just so many good like Sith / Dark Jedi. Really, I mean, heck, even in this book, there's a point in the book where Luke goes to Dagobah because, you know, right where the cave is, like Luke's getting a like a sensation or whatever in the Force, and he goes to Dagobah, and he basically goes to the cave, like where he fights himself and Vader. Like he goes to that cave, and, you know, lo and behold, finds out later that like Yoda basically killed a dark Jedi there. So like it's cool, like getting like seeing the connection of like how like the Sith / really dark Jedi have played such a big role in Star Wars, even like in Legends, Legends, current canon, like video games, everything in between. Like they're all over the place.
You're muted.
Yeah, with me, I'm more versed in the Old Republic. Darth Malgus, as was mentioned already. I mean, I have the statue of him back there somewhere, but yeah, the Old Republic was really, for me, is my Sith era of Star Wars, because it's like the Sith were everywhere. Knights of the Republic, one of the biggest twists since Empire Strikes Back with Darth Revan. That was cool, getting the Darth Revan books. Like, I've read Darth Revan, I've read Deceived by Paulus Kemp. I've read just basically
Wait,
everything.
wait, go back. The Deceived book. That's the one. That's Revan.
Yeah. Oh no, Deceived is Malgus. Revan or
Malgus.
Revan book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aren't they? Yeah. Okay, I've seen those covers. Those covers are awesome. I haven't read those, which is crazy.
Yeah, I think they recently just re-released all those Old Republic books in the Essential Legends collection.
I need to go back. I need to go get those and check them out.
Yeah, they're really cool. But yeah, just the gosh, I can't pronounce that word half the time. Just the way iconography. Yeah, I got it last night on the SWD podcast. I got it twice, and on my podcast, I continue to be cursed trying to pronounce that word. Yeah, it's just like just the feel of these characters, and we're going to be getting the Acolyte series later this next year. I've seen a trailer. That's going to deal with Plagueis probably, because in the recent comic, the High Republic Adventures, and there's a Mune character, and he is said to be over 100 years old. So I already know that species is very long lived. Now we don't know in canon if Plagueis is immune. That's all we've known about him in canon is his name from Revenge of the Sith. There has not been any lore whatsoever based on Plagueis outside of just a single word is mentioned in that meeting. But
which is a travesty. Like, that book should be canon.
Yeah, and I think that book came out like right when the story group like wiped all the canon. Like, I think that came out right at the precipice of when they rebooted everything. So
I want to say it was like when in like 2008, 9, or 10. It was around that time when it came out.
Yeah, something.
Maybe it's a little bit later. But that book had been out for a couple years before Disney was purchased, or before they got Star Wars.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, it's a great book, and it should be canon. Like, I don't care anyone tells me, it's a perfect Star Wars book.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
so far it hasn't really caused any discrepancies in the current
canon.
None. So you might as well just
because there's so much time away from it, where they like the story's well told so far back, it don't contradict anything for the most part. I mean, the best scene in that movie, there's two scenes actually. Whenever Palpatine kills his family, and then whenever Palpatine kills Plagueis. Spoilers. Like, it's dope. I mean, like, it's so good.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. What about Dr. Gonzo is talking about Darth Talon? Do you guys know about that character at all? Because I don't know anything. I know she looks cool as heck, but
go on, Chris. What do you say?
I know she looks really cool. I just don't know much about her at this point.
Oh yeah, Darth Talon's a really cool character. Have you heard about her?
Twi'lek with
he's got the horn, not the horns.
Yep, that's the Twi'lek.
He's pretty much the red version of the chick who's a blue Jedi.
Yep. Yes. So yep. So pretty much Darth Talon, the really, really cool stuff. So her character arc is a really cool one in general, and like I wish they could make her like into a makeshift villain in something Star Wars right now. So this is the thing, the Lucas sequel trilogy scripts, like the ones that were getting worked on with Michael Arndt, like that's where she comes from. And here's the crazy part about the Lucas sequel trilogy. Like, if you look on Star Wars' Twitter, they tweeted out clear back in like 2012 or 13 or whatever that they were working on a Lucas and Michael Arndt trilogy of films. Like, it's that was actually a thing. And like, it was documented in the book series that came out a couple years ago. There was an author who went and actually got to do a full sit down, basically like biography with Lucas, like from episodes 4 through 6 or 1 through 6. And then, like he got all this inside info. Well, so basically Darth Talon, and like you guys have seen the concept art that's out there of her. So basically she was going to be kind of the apprentice to Darth Maul. Like, so they were going to continue off the arc. Of course, this was before Star Wars Rebels. So Darth Maul would have still been alive, basically based on Clone Wars. So Darth Maul was going to continue in the shadows like Darth Maul does through the sequel or through the original trilogy, and then he was going to come back up, and it was going to be him and Darth Talon, like being the two main big bads for the sequel trilogy. Like that was the original sequel trilogy that we would have been getting, like Maul and Darth Talon, this like badass Sith apprentice, and it was going to be, and then the Lucas scripts like had Luke, and then he had like a woman Jedi apprentice, which was actually named Kira. So like that's where they took that name for Kira for Solo, just as a name to like give a little shout out to Lucas. But so like it was going to be Luke and Kira versus Darth Talon and Darth Maul. Like, so that was kind of like the layout. And yeah, so like her character like just sounded like just a badass like Sith apprentice basically under Maul.
Yeah, I think she was also there was that Darth Maul video game. I think she was gonna be in that as well.
Yep.
Which game is that?
There's footage, you can look it up, of a Darth Maul video game. It looked just basically like Jedi Fallen Order or Jedi Survivor. It was like
it's on YouTube, Milton.
Third person combat game, lightsaber combat game, and he was like stalking around Coruscant, which looks just like it does basically in a Jedi Survivor. So that was neat.
But yeah, that's kind of like the brief history of her character. Like she was gonna basically be your apprentice.
So she's not really in any official stories, is what you're saying. She's more like concept art that came out. I thought she was in a comic book or something.
Well, I think she wasn't in I thought maybe I saw her like some Legends stuff, when like Old Republic stuff, like when she was like a Sith she a Sith warrior too.
Yeah,
they've used her sparingly in other parts of Star Wars.
Yeah, I was gonna say she'd been used sparingly, but like her main like claim to fame though was she was gonna be the apprentice for the Lucas sequel trilogy, basically. Her and Maul.
Okay.
But yeah, her character, like that's a really cool Sith character we have there from concept art / Legends and whatever else you would classify that as.
Yeah.
Early sequel trilogy scripting, I guess.
But
Oh, go on, Chris.
I was just gonna kind of talk about Maul a little bit, unless you had another point you wanted to finish up.
No, we can go on to Maul.
Yeah, I think we'll talk about Maul, we gotta talk about Vader, and we gotta talk about Palpatine, and we'll wrap it up. Because we can't leave that discussion with Sith and not talk about those top three. Maul, he's got one of the most interesting stories about being really dead set on this revenge against the Jedi. There is a great comic book I'd recommend everybody from Marvel, just simply called Darth Maul. It's a 5-issue miniseries where he actually teams up with Cad Bane and Aurra Singh, and they go after his like first Jedi kill, because this is before Phantom Menace, and he has a thirst to just get his hands dirty. So Palpatine kind of just lets him do his thing and hunt a Jedi. It's an awesome 5-issue comic miniseries I'd recommend. But yeah, just looking at his entire timeline, working for Palpatine, getting tossed aside by Palpatine, coming back in Clone Wars, and completely starting up a brand new criminal syndicate. So he's got a long history. And I like how, he was once a Darth, and then he gets stripped of his title, but he makes his way through the galaxy as something different. It still channels his hate, still channels his revenge for Kenobi is so strong. So yeah, what a cool storyline for him.
Yeah, look, Maul. All I gotta say is 1999. 11-year-old Milton was losing his mind when that double-bladed lightsaber came out by some guy with his horns on his head. Like he's impactful culturally. Has been impactful. I've never seen so many nerds act like they can sword fight because of this character. Like he made sword. Look, we all love lightsabers as kids, but he made it special. Like lightsaber dueling became something completely different when that character was introduced.
Oh
completely
Ray
different.
Park. Yep, Ray Park.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because they got a martial artist who can fight and can wield a sword. And what made that character even special, I think, when it comes to just the impact, is we got to give love to this actor, Sam Witwer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, Ray Park made him awesome in the live action films. George Lucas is a guy that created him, but in my opinion, Sam Witwer and Dave Filoni and George Lucas has just made that character even more well loved with what they did with him in animation.
Yep.
Like, how amazing is that? Like, and we're just like, damn, like,
think about like Darth. Yeah, think about like Darth Maul's whole comeback story of like the whole spider legs thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I still love hearing like Dave Filoni like talk about like when him and George were coming up with like the whole like how are we bringing him back thing, and George Lucas was like, yeah, spider legs sound good. Like, you know, just casually like, hey, that sounds like an interesting thing.
And people hated it, and I was one of them. I was thinking, what are we doing with Darth Maul? Like, first of all, we killed him too early. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying, and also we bring him out with spider legs. But then I remembered there was a non-canon story of him coming back to fight Obi-Wan.
Yep, remember that one.
On a hunt down Luke, and he had spider legs or something like that. And so that I remember that idea. I'm like, okay, maybe they're pulling from the 9 Legend stuff.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is stupid. But then how they told the story, I'm like, oh, Night Sisters. Like, these are like you know what I'm saying? I didn't know about all that, obviously. But his development from episode 1 to, spoilers, in the Rebels where he loses his life, well told to me, man. Like, it's a great story. And it's like, damn, and it ended tragically. You felt for the character. You felt how tortured he was.
Oh, for sure. His character was fleshed out in a really good way. And like you said, you know, seeing him in all the different mediums, like the animation, the live action, the comics. I remember that old comic too, Milton, the one where he was hunting Luke.
Yes.
Because in that comic, you actually have like Uncle Owen shooting at Darth Maul in that comic and stuff. So like, you know, that's where we had early implications, like Uncle Owen could like actually fight or something. But yeah, I mean, Darth Maul's character is such a cool, interesting character, and I think part of it has to do with, like, okay, you're bringing Star Wars back to theaters after 83 to 99, 16 years. Like, okay, would you rather have the marketing be like them opening the door, and instead of like it being Darth Maul standing there, like, don't get me wrong, we love Count Dooku, but like, would you rather have an old man standing there or a devil-faced horn guy? Like, you know, Darth Maul being so like crazy looking, you know, that was such like a wild part of the marketing for that movie.
Right.
And then
and here's the thing though too, Chris, is that they didn't have to make him 6 or 7 foot.
Yeah.
They didn't have to make him bulky.
Ray Park's like 5'10". I mean,
not even.
If not that, yeah.
If not that, and they just put some red paint on him, put some spikes on him, and made him look cool, and he was that intimidating.
And then on top of it too, we got to give a shout out to the guy. God, I can't even think of his name. What's his name? Peter Serafinowicz, the actual voice of Maul.
Oh, Peter Serafinowicz.
Oh yeah, Peter Serafinowicz. Got to give a shout out to him because that's where Sam Witwer got the inspiration for the voice to begin with. Was him actually? So like his voice, him voicing Maul is a really cool part of that as well. So you know, that's got to be thrown out there. And then I think for me, when it comes to Maul, of course, you have all the awesome acrobatics and cool stuff. But like for me, my favorite sequence with Maul is actually one of them where he loses. It's the scene where him and his brother fight the Emperor, because it really shows like that episode. I sometimes just turn that episode on randomly from Clone Wars because it's so good. It shows how powerful the Emperor is. He comes out of the shuttle, kills all those people without even moving, and then Maul and his brother, you know, basically he's just toying with them, and it's cool just like seeing, like, you know, we think Maul's so powerful, and then boom, like the Emperor's like, no, like I'm actually way more powerful than both you dudes. So I think that for me is like probably my favorite sequence with Maul, I would say, out of everything, just because it's so cool, like seeing his character like go up against the Emperor, like, you know, like, because that's something we never really got. Like we never got Darth Vader fighting Maul on screen, so like, you know, it would have been so cool,
because Maul would lose.
Oh yeah.
Well, in Rebels, remember Rebels, he's like afraid of Vader. He's like, I feel his presence. I'm out of here. See ya.
Yeah, look, he leaves. Like he literally just is like, peace out, I'm gone, and he literally just blasts away. Like
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, my favorite moment from all is probably, well, it's either I really do enjoy the duel in Mandalore between him and Ahsoka, and the fact that Ray Park
That's
actually got back
so good.
motion capture Ray Park in that fight was so authentic to the
Yeah.
animation. It looked amazing.
Yeah, it looked stunning. I mean, and that's what I'm saying. Like that character in all mediums he's been in, everyone loves him consistently. He looks good. He's probably the best fighter in Star Wars. I mean, unless someone tells me otherwise. Like, I mean, pure fighter. I'm not saying he would win every battle, but overall pure fighter when it comes to athleticism, dueling, way he moves his body. It's got to be.
Oh yeah, if you take
Darth Maul.
yeah, if you take away like the raw force power of like say Anakin or something, like he's definitely a better sword fighter I think than Anakin would be.
Yeah,
Like,
I would say the top. I mean, Anakin's up there because Anakin's a
yeah.
boss. Ahsoka
Hmm.
and
Yep.
low key Obi-Wan. People sleep on Obi-Wan. I'm thinking he's just consistent. Obi-Wan don't really lose many fights.
See, Obi-Wan to me is for our sports fans here, like he's the Floyd Mayweather of Star Wars. Like he's a good defensive fighter. That's what he is. Like
There we go.
he's very
That's a perfect
defensive.
analogy.
Like
Perfect.
and he's pretty much undefeated on all his fights. Really, I mean, he literally just gives himself up against Vader. So that's not even. I wouldn't count that. So like he's pretty much good. Like
Yeah.
so yeah, like yeah, Maul definitely probably is the best like pure swordsman, or at least one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick before we go on to Vader, Dark Nerdy Gonzo, good thing we have you in a chat. We love you in a chat, man, because he calls us out on things. So, quick correction to Darth Talon. She was originally in the Legacy comic books, not to be confused with the Legacy of the Force books from
Yeah.
Dark Horse.
Yeah, because like wasn't she part of like the Sith War or the Sith Wars or something, or
Yeah,
like
he said
a
basically
warrior? I
there's
swear she was
Darth
way back
Krayt.
in the day.
Yeah, there's a character
Oh.
named Darth Krayt who was basically Darth Bane 2.0, and he was like had a cult army, and she was like one of his she was his
Yeah,
apprentice. And
Yep.
and George
because
Lucas
was it?
liked the idea of the character from the comic, and he said, "Oh, why don't we just make her the villains of the sequel trilogy?" And then it never
Yep.
happened.
I thought too she was in the Old Republic game, the one that came out a couple years ago with the twins.
No.
Remember the twins with the Sith Empire? But I thought she was in that game too. Maybe I'm missing something.
There's a
Or is this
tweet
a
like
character
that.
maybe that
It's
looked like
green.
her?
It's a tweet like that, it's a
Maybe.
different color.
Yeah, but
Yeah. But all right, so Vader, what do we think would happen with Vader if he didn't get destroyed by Obi-Wan? Like, what happens if
okay.
Anakin was in his human form without
So
the
do you want to? So are you saying like Vader when he's Anakin Vader or robot Vader?
Yeah, like let's see what would happen because
Take away the suit.
The Emperor was like.
Okay, well I got the answer right here.
Yeah, I was saying we have the answer.
Really?
I got the answer right here. It's in the game.
Oh.
It's in Revenge of the Sith. So like, there's an alternate ending
Oh.
where like you play as Anakin and you beat Obi-Wan on Mustafar. And you know, in the movie, high ground, blah 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 blah, and then he goes up, slice. Okay.
Yep.
In the alternate cut of this, and you play it out, high ground, flip, Obi-Wan goes to slice, he misses him, Anakin stabs him in the back.
Ooh.
And then he kicks him over the ledge.
Yeah, he literally kicks him over the edge.
Oh.
Kicks him over the edge, and then like he rolls on the ground dead. And then he's walking up towards the shuttle. Palpatine's there, the clones are there, and he's like, my apprentice, you've done it, blah blah blah. You're gonna be the face of the Empire, blah blah blah. Here's your new lightsaber. Gives him his fucking lightsaber, and then he turns it on. Sorry for the F-bomb, Chris. Turns it on and stabs Palpatine.
Yeah, he quick draws him.
Yep. And then he says, "This is my empire," and I'm thinking that's a great scene if that was actually going to happen.
Yeah.
So there's the answer right there.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the funny thing too. Like that we were talking about this, like the theoreticals of it. Along with so we have the Revenge of the Sith game as some evidence, but also we have evidence from the creator himself. George said years ago, I don't remember where it was from. It was some interview. But he talked about Anakin. So, like, if Anakin didn't get chopped up and turned into the robot Vader, he would have been, I think George said
twice as powerful as the Emperor. Like full powered Emperor, he would have been twice as powerful. But basically, like George's analogy was Anakin was double the power of Darth Sidious, but basically his injuries and everything, it brought him from like basically like 200% clear down to like 65% of the Emperor's power. Like he's significantly less than the Emperor. Like he's 65-70%, which is still powerful than most people, but like his potential was literally like double the Emperor's force potential. Basically,
he lost some natural ability because he was not as organic.
Yep.
And I remember reading about that, and I also remember reading, and maybe you know this, Ben, that Anakin was going to be the face of the Empire, of the new Empire. I mean, one, he's a good-looking guy, facts. But like, you know, the people don't understand. Like, the Sith were extinct for 1,000 years at that point in the Star Wars lore. The common folks in the galaxy didn't know what the Sith was. The Jedi knew, but the common folks didn't know. So they wouldn't have known that one Anakin's a Sith because no one would have said anything. They just said he's a hero of the Republic. He saved the Empire, and he's a hero who was a war hero that saved the Republic. So it was smart for Palpatine to use Anakin as the face of the new Empire. It's a trusted face, a loyal face. You know, like he's a low key Sith. No one wouldn't have known. So that's what would have happened to him too. Like he'd have been not a puppet master. He'd have been like on that same level as Palpatine in a lot of ways.
Yeah, because you have in the current Empire, the Emperor, there is no face of the Empire. The Emperor, like half the time is, in the books at least, is giving
more Masamita, isn't it? Basically,
yeah, more Masamita. But like when Emperor makes an appearance, they like modify him in a hollow where he looks like de-aged. They don't ever show Palpatine like with his wrinkly face or anything. And even in the Bad Batch, remember he barely, very rarely makes an appearance unless he absolutely has to. And when he does, that's when you know crap is about to go down.
Yeah, absolutely right. And actually, didn't they do that in Rebels where
with Ezra? Yeah, with Ezra. Yep.
No, so like, yeah, if you're, I think that's a great question for sure. Like, if someone actually want to write like an actual like book on this, but like, what would Anakin be like if he didn't fall, or if he didn't get destroyed or physically destroyed? I think we have the twins for sure. He'd get the twins. He would raise Luke and Leia. You know, because let's just say Padme still dies. Let's just say that happens. He gets the twins. Let's say Ahsoka decides to come back and be in his life still. Well, he may make Ahsoka his apprentice for all we know. He had a lot of sway over her. Yeah. So he could have convinced her to say, hey, join me, we can take out Palpatine. So you have Ahsoka, who's powerful. You have obviously Anakin. Then you're raising two powerful young kids who are strong in the Force. Imagine that army of Force users.
Oh man.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh man.
And then Palpatine tries to challenge those four and you know Anakin would have kept it wraps. He would have kept it low key. Like,
oh yeah.
It's crazy.
Well,
and he was only 22. That's how young he was, only 22. Imagine 20 years later when he's 42 and at the peak of his power training his kids.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy.
Oh yeah, like Anakin's like potential was so sky high. Like I said, even setting like the Lucas comments aside, like his potential, you know, just thinking about it was so sky high. Like without the Vader suit, and then like heck, guys, like even with the Vader suit, like think of how much of a terror like Darth Vader is. Like just at minimum, you know, if you see him arrive at your doorstep, it's like the Grim Reaper's here. You're done. Like you're done. Like there's no leaving the building. Like the Grim Reaper's here. Like everyone here is pretty much dead. So like his character, like I think like with Vader's whole thing before he turns good at the end of Jedi, like his whole, like it's just great seeing how like even. You know, even without all that potential of him being more powerful than the Emperor, like him being as powerful as he is, like terrorizing the galaxy, like going around being like the badass that he is, like is still so incredible because it's crazy. Like put it into perspective, like to see like, you know, like look what happens in Rogue One, like Vader just like whipping on those dudes. And like even, you know, Vader like facing different Jedi and things like, I mean, look, you have
you have Darth Maul running off in Rebels, you have Vader fighting, and he killed Ahsoka before she got saved, basically. So like he killed his apprentice, like he did all of these things, and then for me, also like one of my favorite Vader things, like we have plenty of course, all the live action Vader stuff is S tier, like amazing. But in terms of like extended, like in canon, Legends, like everything, like one of my favorite things from even from current canon, I'll say, is from the Battlefront book. Like
Oh
I'm sure you
yeah.
remember this, Chris.
Yep.
The Hoth scene, because like the Hoth scene is kind of like the pseudo Rogue One scene,
Yep.
where like you have these rebel troopers, like they're holding off down the hallway in like in a cave or whatever, in a hallway of Echo Base, and like basically Vader, they're shooting down the hall, and then like the rebels get confused because they're like, wait, why did the stormtroopers, like all the stormtroopers peeled back, like they all left to the entrance, and then like the one rebel, he all of a sudden sees like the lightsaber ignite, and then like Vader just goes to town on the rebels in the hallway, and that was like one of our early hallway scenes even before Rogue One. And like I remember reading that book, and I was like, man,
Yep.
this is the Vader I was imagining, as a
Yep.
kid or something, like seeing him terrorize the galaxy. So I think like that was one of the coolest moments in canon for me. I would say it was definitely from the Battlefront book.
Yeah, one of the best moments for Vader is in the Marvel comic book, the 2015 run by Jason Aaron, specifically the Vader Down comic book series. You've probably seen the images of Vader
Yep.
surrounded by a legion of rebel troopers, and they're like, "We have you surrounded," and he's like, "Oh, I'm surrounded by fear and dead men." And he triggers with the Force all their thermal detonators that are attached to their belts, and they just all explode, and he just cuts them all down. It was just like, oh my gosh, that's the power of the Sith right there in action. And cutting it to the end here, the Emperor himself, the thumbnail of this here video. Let's bring it all together now. With the Emperor is the final Sith that we know of so far. Um, just we talked about him a lot with Plagueis and all of that, but just favorite moments with Palpatine.
Man, where do we start?
Yeah.
Um, oh, I mean, there's so many good ones. I'm trying to think. I mean, unlimited power. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? Like when he offs Mace Windu, like, oh, like that scene's
Yep.
fire. Honestly, I think I would say my favorite scene, moment with him. No, it's a simple scene. It's whenever Anakin's knighted
Oh
as
yeah.
Darth Vader in the office,
Right.
and he's going through his transition of voice and everything, and he's talking about the grand plan,
Yep.
and he's got the hood down still, and he's saying, if the Jedi discover our plan, they'll kill us both, blah blah blah. And then he's talking about once more the Sith will rule the galaxy, and we shall have peace. And he puts that hood over, and it's Return of the Jedi, Palpatine.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, damn, they transitioned that perfectly because he looks so good. I mean, he's a little younger, obviously, but it's like,
Yep.
yes, that's the guy we know. That's the
It
Sidious that we were used to.
it's
That
amazing that
scene, I
yeah.
get so goosebumpy when I watch it.
Yeah, it's
Even talking about it,
amazing
I got the goosebumps.
that Ian McDermott played Palpatine when he was like 30 something years old. And then he
Yes.
played him again when he was like 50 something year old. And
Yup.
then he
Yeah.
played him when he was like 70 something year old for the final
Perfect
order.
though.
But it's
But
pretty neat how
isn't it crazy how him age like revert like the reverse age of him
yeah.
getting older, he plays it better. I mean, he was great in Return of the Jedi, facts.
Oh
Yep.
yeah.
But like him being the perfect age when the prequels came
Oh yeah.
out was perfect because you got to see that Palpatine what his age would have been. Like there's no way McDermott could play Palpatine at his young age when he was like supposed to be a senator. I think we needed to wait for Palpatine to really grow up or whatever it is, but it was such a good role. Like Palpatine's that dude.
Yeah, and
Oh
think
yeah.
about just the imagery of him, right? Like, who would ever expect like this old shrivel up little guy walking in Return of the Jedi off the Lambda class shuttle? Is this guy walking through with a cane, and like Darth Vader, this big hulking mass of a cyborg epic dark side looking guy is like being like a little doormat for this like little guy walking with a
Yeah.
cane. And you're like, they flipped the
That should tell you
script
something right
on like
there. Like
how
that.
the
Yeah.
That's what.
heck this
That's the
guy's
brilliance of that
subservient to this
character
little guy.
because he didn't need to look hulking. He didn't need to
No.
look physically dominant. You knew he can wreck you with his pinky. That's how strong. Like Vader knew he would get wrecked. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
like it's.
Oh yeah, like Palpatine, his character is just such a great character. I mean, for all of us, especially like in our late 20s, early 30s, you know, we all have to remember, or we all, you know, go back to, you know, like I mentioned earlier with the Darth Maul in the marketing of the Phantom Menace movies. You know, the same thing. We kept getting that one shot of the Emperor saying, wipe them out, all of them. Like, you know, so that was like kind of like the reintroduction back to his character. And then, you know, you guys mentioned in like the Return of the Jedi sequence, like for me, I think for me, like other than some like the action moments with Vader, of course, like I mentioned, but like for me, my favorite Vader, I mean, I guess he's more Anakin in that room, whatever, but favorite Vader and Palpatine moments in general, it has to be that final throne room fight between Vader and Luke and Palpatine, just because it's so cool seeing the transition, like seeing Palpatine tempt Luke to the dark side, tempt him, and Luke was just about to do it, because if Vader wouldn't have drew, you know, that's another cool part that shows how quick Vader is, even being in his cyborg suit. Look, soon as Luke was literally going to cut Palpatine right in half in that scene, but Vader drew his lightsaber that quick to block it. So, like, you know, you're seeing how great Vader's character is, but how great Palpatine's character is, because look, he does all this stuff. He's giving this dialogue in the background when Vader and Luke are fighting. And then even when Luke defeats Vader, you know, you have Palpatine, you know, especially like if you think about it, guys, like back when he first watched Return of the Jedi, or like even the people who watched it back then, they probably were thinking like, what's this old man gonna do? He's like standing here just like giving his monologue to Luke, and then he just blasts the hell out of him with his lightning and stuff, and you're like, whoa. Like, so it's just like Palpatine's whole throne room sequence is probably my favorite of his and Vader's combined, I would say, other than of course like the I'm Your Father, but I think that's my favorite for both of those characters, just because like there's so many things at stake. Like the galaxy is literally at stake during that whole sequence.
This is what makes him the most badass villain, in my opinion, in movies in history, just because of this. The logic of that character. He's the most patient villain of all time.
Yep.
His plan legit took 50 plus years.
Oh,
I mean, like let's just think about that.
As a human, that's his whole life, basically.
Yeah, I'm saying, so like it took 50 plus years to get his plan to be, you know, go through. 1, 2. George Lucas said, "How can we make Darth Vader subservient? Let's create a character who's an old man with monkey eyes at the time, because we didn't have McDermott in the second movie in the original."
I just saw that yesterday in Empire.
Which again, that scene is still great with that version of it too.
I love that original speech. I do like better than the Ian McDermott one. I can say that
without question. But I love both speeches. But yeah, it's like, let's make Vader subservient to a character who's hunches, who looks old, who don't look athletic, but you know Vader respects him. It's like, damn, like this guy must be that dude. Then if Vader ain't gonna step to him, you know. And it's like, okay. And then this is the same guy that wrecked Yoda in a lightsaber duel. Like, I never would have thought I'd seen that, and he made Yoda look silly.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to see, like, well, because look, even to an extent, the Jedi Council, like Mace and the crew that went to go get Palpatine, I'm sure that they didn't expect for Palpatine. I mean, that's one of the best things about the Revenge of the Sith book is like, so as the Jedi are fighting Palpatine, Mace, and the crew, I think it was Saci Tenor, it might have been Kit Fisto. One of the two Jedi, you have an inner monologue in their head where because they're like, I think it was Saci 10, but he was shocked. He was shocked at how fast Palpatine moved, because he was like, you know, he walked in, and from his point of view, he was kind of just like being the, dogmatic Jedi. He was like, oh, arresting this old man is going to be pretty much simple. And then when Palpatine goes and jumps, like from Stacey Tin's point of view, he's like talking about how he's moving so fast. And see, this is a thing that's like kind of limited in terms of filmmaking, but in like real life Star Wars, like if this was not a movie, like from the Jedi's point of view, like in the Revenge of the Sith book, Palpatine, like when Stacey Tin and all of them are fighting, like from his point of view, he said he was just seeing literally a blur, like that's how fast Palpatine was moving and killing those guys. So like, it's cool just seeing like, and even Yoda to an extent. I'm sure Yoda overestimated him because he probably thought, hey,
he says it in the book.
Yeah,
he says it in the book. He said we did not prepare. He's like, we weren't prepared for this Sith, like this version of the Sith. Damn. He's like, we were defeated 20 years ago or whatever it was. Like, we were defeated years ago because we weren't prepared. Like, we did not prepare for this version of the Sith. We prepared for what the Sith used to be.
Yeah.
They say it in the book, and I'm thinking that's the dogmatic thinking of the Jedi. They were arrogant, and Palpatine called them on it every time throughout the sequel. If you listen to Sidious talk about how the arrogance of the Jedi. Like every time you talk to a Jedi, they're so arrogant in their own dogmatic viewpoint. It's like, all right, well, you didn't adjust. You had no idea this was coming. Palpatine played them like a fiddle. You even look at Tales of the Jedi, what he was doing with Dooku. Mm-hmm. I mean, and Dooku, like even in Revenge of the Sith, when Dooku's about to die, he had no idea he got played until that last minute. He's like, shit. He's like, oh, he was playing me the whole time too. Like, I mean, he was. Palpatine's that guy.
Oh yeah, Palpatine's definitely like the quintessential villain. Like, of course, Darth Vader's the most iconic villain in film history, but I think like Palpatine can be said as like he's like the best overall, like thinking, planning, like everything, and it's just great. It's just great, like seeing how he went from episodes 1 to, I guess now 9, but 1 to 6 especially, where it's like, it's just seeing how he like, just slowly works his way up through things. I mean, heck, look when he like went and, he laid it out on the line to Anakin. Like he admitted he was the Sith Lord to Anakin because he knew it was gonna work in his favor, because he knew Anakin would get the Jedi to come and arrest him, and then it would be his perfect time to to turn him, because Palpatine knew he was going to be able to wipe the floor with whatever Jedi came to arrest him. So like it's just great seeing that character's progression and how calculated he was.
Yeah, it was very much he was doing this for a long time, and to see it pay off, but then have a backup plan of a backup plan of a backup plan. And always being confident that what he's going to do is going to end up working in the end. The intellectual that plans ahead is what really comes to the forefront here. But yeah, no, this was a great conversation, a great discussion. We went into the Old Republic. We went into the current timeline, the latter half of the Legends timeline. So I really feel like we covered a lot of ground tonight on talking about Sith on May the 5th. So there's a lot of fun to be had today. I want to thank you guys for joining me in the discussion. Thanks for the chat room as always. Milton, it's good to have you back. It's good to have some good old Star Wars ramblings between the three of us.
Yeah, no, it's good to be back. Hopefully I can be a little more consistent. I apologize to the fan base out there. Your boy, life, man. I'm sorry. I'll try to be more consistent when I can. So, yeah, I'm glad to be back, and I appreciate it. Can't wait to finish Visions in the next week or so. But if you guys are looking for me, I am on Twitter at Milton Weber 7, and on Instagram at Milton7Weber.
Oh yeah, and Ben, thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, no problem. It's always a lot of fun coming on here to rant and ramble about Star Wars for a few hours. It's always a great way to end the week. And if you want to if people would like to connect with me to talk Star Wars or sports or fitness, you can find me on Twitter at RealBenMaynard, and then on Instagram, I'm just like documenting, getting in great shape, getting shredded again, and I'm down like 11 pounds in the last 3 or 4 weeks, so that's been super nice. And Yeah, so I'm just getting like real consistent, real locked in on everything. So you can follow along like my workouts and like kind of my updates on Instagram there at Real Ben Maynard as well.
All right. As far as for me on this channel, oh man, there's so much Star Wars content. I'm going to be covering over the next couple weeks. It's going to take me to get through some of these books, some of these comics, some of these video games, legends or not legends, visions, all that stuff coming down the pipe. I have Star Wars timelines that I've literally not even really opened yet. So there's a lot coming down the pipeline for me. Just stay tuned. YouTube.com/Starrapter. And for those of you that want to listen to us on a podcast, it's search Spotify, Google Music, Apple Music, any of your podcast catchers. Just look us up at Outer Rim Transmission. Well, I think that's a good time to call it. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. Catch us every Friday at 9 o'clock Eastern on youtube.com/Starrapter. So for Milton, for Ben, for I, Chris, aka Starrapter, this was Outer Rim Transmission 105. Thanks for watching. May the Force be with you always.